Marvel. Starting with the super soldier serum. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101. Doctor Strange. Black Widow was injured, and Coulson also tried his best to mobilize the resources at his disposal. Not long after, a helicopter with complete emergency medical facilities circled and landed on the road. Not long after Black Widow entered the emergency room, Coulson had already rushed to the hospital. How is it? Although each of the characters in Marvel's plot has the attributes of being silly and stupid, most of them are still reliable when the real thing comes. After receiving Qin Xiao's call, the first thing Coulson did was to arrange a professional medical team and helicopter to come over. The second thing was to have people search this area immediately, set up control, check surveillance, etc. When Qin Xiao asked that, Coulson immediately understood what he meant. Two groups of people have been arranged. One group has been monitoring you and Natasha for the past few days, and the other group has been investigating her and Natasha's whereabouts for the past few days. This is a premeditated attack, and it is definitely not a spur-of-the-moment attack. I believe they should have followed you or one of you for a few days. Now I am curious, why did the other party not launch a follow-up attack after launching a missile at you? Qin Xiao recalled the situation in detail and said, when the explosion occurred, I was afraid that Natasha would be injured, so I held her and survived the explosion. If it was before I went to Asgard, I would probably be injured. If it was an ordinary super soldier, this blow would be enough to cause him serious injury or temporary loss of combat effectiveness. Coulson's mind quickly flashed through the strength that Qin Xiao had shown in front of outsiders several times, and then he stood in the attacker's perspective and imagined it. It should be an intelligence problem. The judgment of your strength was wrong. If you force the attack, Natasha may die, but the attacker will definitely be left behind or killed by you. Coulson wanted to say something, but the door of the operating room was opened and a doctor hurried out. Doctor? Qin Xiao stood up suddenly. The patient's chest cavity was half penetrated by shrapnel, and the lungs were severely damaged. Surgery is needed as soon as possible, but the problem is that the shrapnel is relatively close to the heart, and there are two aortas nearby, so the operation is very difficult. The doctor briefly and quickly introduced the basic situation. The implication was that the success rate of the operation was very low. There must be a way to increase the success rate, right? Advanced equipment, better doctors, there must be a way, right? As long as you say it. Anyone, any equipment, I can help you get it. Qin Xiao held the doctor's shoulders excitedly. The doctor groaned in pain, and Qin Xiao quickly released his hands. I'm sorry, doctor, I'm just too nervous. Now, give me an answer. I want my girlfriend to get out of this operating room safely. He's the best surgeon in New York City and even in North America. He has superb medical skills and his hands are even more precise than machines. He's a very dedicated doctor. If he comes to perform the operation, your girlfriend will have a great chance of recovery. But that doctor has a problem. He never takes any work after get off work. A rich man once offered him $10 million to see a doctor but failed. He only does his job during working hours. He says that's the most efficient way to save people. Tell me his name. The coldness in Qin Xiao's eyes stunned the doctor. He didn't think anyone could invite the best surgeon in New York. How many billionaires had asked him to be their private doctor or family doctor and were rejected? But looking at Qin Xiao's momentum and Coulson with two agents beside him, he looked like he was not easy to mess with. It was estimated that this man was not an ordinary person, so he thought about it and said a name. Stephen Strange. Qin Xiao was stunned when he heard the name, Doctor Strange. Qin Xiao should have thought of it when the doctor said that he was the best surgeon in New York and even in North America, but it was useless to think about it now. Qin Xiao hadn't spoken yet. Coulson had already waved to the two agents next to him, find him and bring him back. Qin Xiao looked at the doctor. Within an hour. I promise there won't be any problems. If you don't get Doctor Strange after an hour, I can only say that I will do my best. After the doctor finished speaking, he hurried back to the operating room. It was still very fast for the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent to find an ordinary person. Only 20 minutes later, the future Doctor Strange stood in front of Qin Xiao. Arrogant, weird, and must do things according to his own rules. To a certain extent, he is a bit like Tony Stark, but compared to Tony, Doctor Strange is not so cynical. I said I won't accept any work after get off work. No matter who you are, let me go and apologize to me. $500 million. Go in and do this operation. I'll give you $500 million. Qin Xiao directly offered a price that no normal person could refuse. Even if you put $500 million in cash in front of me now, don't expect me to go in and do the operation. Money is just a necessity for me, and it is definitely not the motivation or purpose of my work. So you'd better save it. Doctor Strange walked in front of Qin Xiao and said word by word. Qin Xiao reached out his hand like lightning, took out a pistol from an agent's arms, and pointed the gun at Doctor Strange's head. Hey, Coulson and another agent looked at Qin Xiao nervously. Qin, relax. Qin Xiao turned a deaf ear to this and threatened Doctor Strange directly. Now, you go in and complete this operation, and the promise of $500 million will still be valid. Otherwise you will shoot, right? This is a hospital. You want to shoot me here? Sir, please call the police. Your friend is a little too impulsive. Doctor Strange was unmoved. Qin Xiao hesitated for a moment, and shattered a light bulb on the ceiling with one shot. Then he turned the gun and pointed it at his forehead. Bang, 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 bang. He fired several shots in a row. Then, in the stunned eyes of Doctor Strange and the two agents, he punched the wall beside him. Christine Palmer is also one of the doctors in this hospital. If you don't go in, I will kill her right now, and then chop off your hands that are said to be more accurate than machines. Do you think the police can stop me? Doctor Strange stared at Qin Xiao. After a while, he slowly said, okay, you win. I will go to the operation right now, but I reserve the right to call the police afterwards. Chapter 102 Black Widow's Inner Demon. The operation lasted for more than 3 hours. Doctor Strange's hands were indeed not covered. Black Widow was finally out of danger. Thank you very much. Give me your bank account number and I will transfer $500 million to you tomorrow. Qin Xiao said sincerely. Don't thank me. Once I enter the operating room, I will do my best to save people, even if I didn't come in voluntarily. When your friend brought me here, he said he was an agent from a certain department. If I call the police now, will the police arrest you? Not only did you say you would cut off my hand, you also threatened to kill my girlfriend. Doctor Strange stared at Qin Xiao, obviously still upset about the threat he had just received. To be honest, I don't know, but I know that even if you arrest me, it will be useless. You can find another way to retaliate against me, money, or beat me up. Black Widow was out of danger, and Qin Xiao finally knew how to joke. Forget it. My fist is not as hard as the wall, nor as fast as the bullet. Since the police can't do anything to you, and I'm not interested in money, then you owe me one. If I need you in the future, you must help me once. Doctor Strange's answer was quite clever. As an agent of the intelligence department, Qin Xiao has superhuman physique and strength. A favor is much more difficult to do than money, mainly because he himself is not short of money. Qin Xiao smiled and gave him his phone number. The patient needs to rest. I gave her an injection of sedatives. You'd better go in to see her in a few hours. Also, remember to compensate our wall. Doctor Strange also left in a hurry. He still has to go to work tomorrow. As a doctor in the operating room, he must maintain sufficient physical strength and full concentration to work well. This is why he only accepts surgery during working hours. Although it sounds very inhumane, it also makes sense. When Black Widow opened her eyes, it was already dawn, and Qin Xiao was sitting on a stool beside the bed. His eyes were empty, and he held his head with both hands and shook it back and forth gently. It was obvious that he had been waiting for a long time and was very bored. The Black Widow looked a little silly and cute, and she grinned. For some reason, she wanted to kiss his face. This boy, being with him always made her forget all the messy things, and it also aroused her childishness. The Black Widow gently held the railing beside the bed, wanting to secretly get up and kiss Qin Xiao. As a result, with a little force, The wound on her back was torn with pain. Ah! He cried out in pain. Qin Xiao immediately stood up and said happily, "Are you awake?" Yes. The sneak attack failed, and the Black Widow slowly half sat up with the help of Qin Xiao, looking at the water and flowers on the bedside table. There was also a hot dog that she didn't know how long it had been bought. Obviously it was not Qin Xiao's breakfast or supper. "Is this for me?" The Black Widow remembered that before the accident, she said she was hungry and wanted to eat a hot dog. "Yes, I remember you said you were hungry last night, and the hot dog cart must have been scared. I couldn't find him. I bought this downstairs in the hospital. It tastes good. I bought one first before buying it." "How can you eat hot dogs right after waking up from an injury?" Black Widow said as she drank half a glass of water from Qin Xiao's hand. "A good mood is more important than anything else. If you don't like it, I'll change it for you. You can eat anything you want." "Then I'll eat this hot dog." Black Widow's mouth corners raised, smiling like a girl on a first date. "Wow, wow, wow, I think we must have come at the wrong time. I bet that if we came in a little later, they would have kissed each other, and maybe they would have done something on the hospital bed, turning tomorrow's headlines into a sex scandal or something." The one who spoke was Tony, and standing behind him was Hawkeye, who had not been seen for a long time and had been on a mission. "I was on vacation, staying at home with my kids, but Laura heard that you were injured, so she asked me to come and see you right away." "These are the flowers Laura picked last night." Hawkeye held a bunch of small wild flowers of several colors in his hand, which were picked by Hawkeye's wife. Black Widow and Hawkeye's family have a very good relationship, and the relationship between the two is actually a bit similar to that between Rhodes and Tony. In Chinese terms, it means that they are close friends. "Thank Laura for me, and I will go to your house for dinner later." The arrival of the two made the war lively in an instant. Not long after, Coulson also came. Qin Xiao gave Coulson a look, and Coulson shook his head slightly. "Since there is no breakthrough in the sneak attack for the time being, let's remove the thorn in Black Widow's heart first." Qin Xiao found an opportunity and secretly called Hawkeye out alone. "I want to know what happened in Budapest." Although Hawkeye has not been with everyone much recently, he has heard about the affairs of Black Widow and Qin Xiao. Hearing Qin Xiao's question, Hawkeye sighed slightly and began to tell Qin Xiao about his first meeting with Black Widow. At that time, Black Widow was still working for the Red House. During the spying, she met Hawkeye from SHIELD. Hawkeye had the opportunity to kill her, but Hawkeye knew that all the female agents in the Red House had been trained, controlled and brainwashed since childhood, so he tried his best to persuade Black Widow to surrender and join SHIELD to deal with the Red House together. However, SHIELD could not accept an enemy agent just because of Hawkeye's personal judgment, so a pledge of allegiance was needed. That is, to kill the leader of the Red House, Dreykov. "If you want to get out of the Red House and get rid of their pursuit, you must join SHIELD. Black Widow, who wanted to get out of the Red House, installed a bomb in Dreykov's house, but before the bomb was detonated, Dreykov's youngest daughter, Antonia, came back. The opportunity was fleeting, and it would not be so easy to deal with Dreykov in the future. So Black Widow made up her mind and detonated the bomb. But unfortunately, Antonia died, but Dreykov did not die in the explosion. This operation won the trust of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the blood debt of an innocent girl is the thorn in the heart of Black Widow. Budapest is the name of the safe house when Hawkeye and Black Widow are carrying out assassination missions. It can also be regarded as their code name. "You mean, she knew that the girl was innocent, and in order to completely get out of the Red Room, she pressed the button with her own hands and killed an innocent girl, right?" Qin Xiao confirmed. "You don't know how terrible the Red Room is." "I understand it very well, but her behavior, Qin, you can't imagine." Hawkeye was afraid that Qin Xiao had any ideas, so he spoke for Black Widow at the first time. "No, you misunderstood. I just confirmed whether this matter is the blood debt that she has been lingering. I don't care about the life and death of the girl. It's not her fault." Qin Xiao, who got the exact answer, pulled Hawkeye to go back to the ward. After a few steps, Qin Xiao seemed to suddenly think of something. "You mean, that Dreykov, the leader of the Red House, is not dead, right?" Chapter 103. The leader of the Red House, Dreykov, is not dead, and this was also told to Hawkeye by Nick Fury. Black Widow always thought that Dreykov and his little daughter Antonia were all killed by her. In fact, after Dreykov knew that he was being targeted by S.H.I.E.L.D., he pretended to be dead in the explosion, and the Red House organization also turned from open to dark and hid in the dark. In fact, when Qin Xiao and Hawkeye were chatting, Dreykov was in New York, and in a hotel not far from them. And sitting opposite him was Francis, one of the leaders of Hydra who activated the Siberian super soldier to kidnap Ivan Vanko last time. Your intelligence is a bunch of shit, Francis. That Qin Xiao is more powerful than you can imagine. You asked me to attack a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but you told me it was a Siberian wolf. This is what you did. That guy is simply a humanoid monster. He actually stood still and resisted a soup-tub micro-missile. You know how powerful that thing is. Oh, he's also a good friend of Iron Man Tony Stark. He's been flirting with S.H.I.E.L.D. recently. You've brought me an enemy. An enemy that I can't contend with. You need to pay for this. Dreykov slammed the table viciously, then picked up a bottle of vodka on the table and took a big gulp. You have no losses, my friend. If you mean the missile that injured the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and the travel expenses of your widows, I can compensate you tenfold. But other than that you have no losses. Your people didn't even show up. They just launched a missile from the rooftop. No one knows it was you. But what about our gains, my friend? A super soldier who is as powerful as a god. If we can catch him and study his serum, as long as 1/10 of your widows become as powerful as Qin Xiao, you will be able to rule the world. Francis' words did not bring any emotional fluctuations to Dreykov. He just glanced at Francis indifferently. My target is Natasha Romanov. I am not interested in Qin Xiao. If you provide me with Natasha's whereabouts, I will help you catch Qin Xiao. But now your intelligence is wrong. I want to withdraw. Do you know how much risk I have to take to come to the United States? Killing Natasha is just a way for me to vent my anger. I won't take too much risk for this. Francis gritted his teeth in hatred. It would be strange if Dreykov was not interested in Qin Xiao's serum. If he really thought the risk was too great, this old fox would have slipped away at the first time. And why would he stay in the United States and refuse to leave? It's nothing more than finding Qin Xiao's rare goods, and now he is raising the price. However, this Qin Xiao is indeed attractive enough. I thought that he could suppress 4 super soldiers by himself last time, and he could withstand Gatling bullets. It was already strong enough, but I didn't expect that. I still underestimated him. A super soldier, you know. I only have 3 left in my hand now. I will give you the control password directly, regardless of whether this thing succeeds or not. Francis gritted his teeth and said, because of what happened last time, the entire Hydra is now ostracizing him. Now he can only find Dreykov to cooperate with him. He has no choice at all. 2. Deliver first. Dreykov's eyes lit up and he said slowly, deal. Francis' heart was bleeding. Qin, here is a letter for you. When he learned that Black Widow could be discharged from the hospital for rest and just had to go to the hospital for a checkup after a while, Qin Xiao took her to his home despite Black Widow's objection. After going home and settling down a little, the two decided to go downstairs to buy some things to fill the empty refrigerator at home. As soon as she went downstairs, Black Widow found a letter stuffed in the mouth of the mailbox. She didn't know who it was, and the letter was not completely stuffed in when it was delivered. Is it a tax bill or something? Qin Xiao muttered as he opened the envelope. Inside was a photo that looked quite old. It showed 2 little girls. One was about 10 years old, and the other looked only 5 or 6 years old. Huh? Qin Xiao was a little strange. Maybe he sent it to the wrong place. Hearing Qin Xiao's voice, Black Widow subconsciously glanced at the photo in Qin Xiao's hand. The next second, her face changed drastically and she snatched the photo from Qin Xiao's hand. Then she ran out of the door and looked around anxiously, as if looking for someone. What's wrong? What's wrong with this photo? Qin Xiao looked around and saw nothing unusual. The one in this photo is me, and the smaller one is my sister, Yelena. Black Widow held the photo, her eyes full of memories. You have a sister? Qin Xiao said in surprise. Black Widow did not answer Qin Xiao's words, but looked around the crowd again. Not finding anything unusual, she looked at the photo again, turned it over, and there was a line of words written on the back of the photo. Can I believe you? My sister. The signature is Yelena. Let's talk about it when we get back. Suddenly receiving this photo, Black Widow was in no mood to go shopping, and directly pulled Qin Xiao back home. At this time, on the rooftop of a building in the distance, a man and a woman were standing on the edge of the rooftop, staring at the position where Qin Xiao and Black Widow had just stood. The man was the leader of the Red House, Dreykov. Seeing Black Widow running out in a hurry and looking around, Dreykov had a smile on his face. "It seems that your sister misses you very much, Yelena. This time it's up to you." "Yes, master." Behind Dreykov, Yelena, who was dressed in black and had a slightly round face, said expressionlessly. Qin Xiao, who returned home, finally heard Black Widow tell her childhood story in person. Black Widow entered the Red House for training at the age of 6. When she was 8, she was selected to pretend to form a family with a pair of adult agents and lurked in the United States to steal the necessary intelligence, and Yelena was the little girl who played the role of Black Widow's sister. At that time, Yelena was only 3 years old. In this temporary family of 4, she was the only one who thought that all this was true. Dad, Mom, and sister, until the year when Black Widow was 11 years old. They were exposed. The family of 4 finally escaped from the United States in the pursuit and interception of SHIELD, but what greeted them was the disintegration of this temporary family that had been formed for 3 years. Black Widow knew the cruelty of the training in the Red Room, and she didn't want her 6-year-old sister to go in and suffer the same inhuman torture as herself. At such a young age, she raised the pistol to the soldiers around her. But helplessly, the two were injected with anesthetics and forcibly taken away. Moreover, they were forcibly separated in the Red Room, and she never saw her sister again until she successfully graduated and became a killing machine in the Red Room. Until later, she met Hawkeye, killed Dreykov, and joined SHIELD. She had tried to find Yelena's whereabouts, but there was no news. Unexpectedly, she received this photo today. Chapter 104. It is shameful for a man not to have worked as a lumberjack. She was only 6 years old. 6 years old. In her heart, I was her sister, but I didn't protect her. Tears sparkled in Black Widow's eyes. Qin Xiao went over and hugged Black Widow, who was sitting on the sofa, and kissed her head gently through her hair. He asked softly, "What happened later?" Later, Black Widow's eyes showed a trace of struggle and pain. Later, I was lucky to survive in the Red House, completed my training, and became a Black Widow. They removed my uterus and fallopian tubes. Qin Xiao felt Black Widow's body tremble slightly, and he tightened his hands. "It's okay, it's not your fault." Maybe it was the photo of Yelena that opened Black Widow's memory today. It could also be Qin Xiao's gentle comfort and persuasion, or maybe it was both. Black Widow told her experience before joining S.H.I.E.L.D. in one breath. She met Hawkeye, failed the mission, Hawkeye let her go, and finally, with the help of Hawkeye, she carried out the mission to kill Dreykov. I saw Dreykov's little daughter walk into the house. From her eyes, I knew that she knew nothing. She was just an innocent, ordinary girl, but I still pressed the detonation button. The biggest scar in Black Widow's heart was revealed by herself. She finally let go of all her heart and burst into tears. Having been a killing machine in the Red House for so long, Black Widow has killed scientists, politicians, and hostile spies, but there has never been an innocent little girl. She killed people just because she was anxious to leave the Red House. At the moment she detonated the bomb, she even had the image of Yelena growing up in her mind. Her eyes were as pure and innocent as Dreykov's little daughter. After a long time, Black Widow's emotions slowly calmed down. She curled up in Qin Xiao's arms and raised her head to Qin Xiao. "I am a monster. I don't have a uterus. I am not even qualified to be a mother." Qin Xiao's eyes did not fluctuate at all. "I am also a monster. I am invulnerable, extremely strong, and can even breathe fire. I wonder if I ate a few gourds in my previous life." Gourd? Black Widow was successfully diverted by Qin Xiao. "Yes, gourd. Today I will tell you the story of the Kilabash brothers. A long time ago, there was an old man. In the end, the 7 Kilabash brothers drove away the scorpion spirit, and lived a shameless and happy life with the snake spirit in the mountains." Black Widow laughed at Qin Xiao's story about the frivolous Kilabash brothers. "So, dear Mr. Qin, the Kilabash brothers, what about your snake spirit?" "I don't like snakes. I like spiders. The more poisonous the better, such as the Black Widow." "Ugh, Qin Xiao was halfway through his words when he was blocked by the Black Widow. Unlike their previous kisses, the Black Widow today was more provocative and aggressive. Qin Xiao, with his blood boiling, began to try to take off the clothes on the Black Widow in a hurry. As a result, he was gently pushed by the Black Widow and fell on the sofa, with her back to the moonlight from the window. Black Widow looked down and gently untied the small straps on her dress. The silk dress slid down on her white and smooth skin. Qin Xiao couldn't help but take a breath. Black Widow looked at Qin Xiao with unconcealed passion and admiration in her eyes. With a slight smile, "My little gourd baby, here I come." Under the moonlight, the white and perfect body gently fell on Qin Xiao's body. No words all night. Purely based on imagination. The next morning, Qin Xiao slowly opened his eyes in a ray of sunlight, feeling the warmth in his arms, and the amazing smoothness and elasticity on his hands. Qin Xiao grinned and smiled silently, although because of the injury on Black Widow's back, Qin Xiao's years of diligent study materials were not all put to use, but it was also memorable enough. Gently stroking the wound on Black Widow's back, he recalled the past that Black Widow talked about yesterday. Just after being attacked and discharged from the hospital, there was news of his sister who had been missing for many years. How could it be such a coincidence? Since she became his woman, Qin Xiao took over all the grievances and hatreds of Black Widow in her first half of her life. Originally, Qin Xiao wanted to find Nick Frito to get some information about the Red House, but now that Yelena appeared, Qin Xiao decided to sit on the Diotai and wait for his opponents to come to him, see what they are up to. Sure enough, after a few days of sweet and oily days with Black Widow, one night at 11 o'clock, Qin Xiao and Black Widow were kissing passionately on the sofa. Qin Xiao picked up Black Widow and was about to walk towards the bedroom. Nicole's voice sounded in the living room. After coming to New York, Qin Xiao asked Tony to build a system here. Of course, the main body was still connected to the secret room of the apartment in Los Angeles. "Sir, I know I shouldn't disturb you now, but Mr. Stark is outside the door. He said he has something to come in to see you." If it weren't for Nicole's voice, Qin Xiao would have almost forgotten that he and Tony were neighbors in New York. "Tell him to go back to his house. I'm doing something important in my life." Qin Xiao perfectly explained what it means to value love over friendship. "Sir, I think you'd better open the door. Miss Romanoff will be interested in what Mr. Stark has in his hand." Nicole switched to the TV screen. Tony was outside the door holding a manila envelope. Black Widow looked at Qin Xiao with hope. Qin Xiao certainly knew the priorities of things and sighed. "Go in and change your clothes, Nicole, and let that bastard wait at the door for a minute." To be honest, Tony really didn't mean to disturb the couple. Who knew Qin Xiao took Black Widow back? SHIELD gave Black Widow a vacation to recover from her injuries. When agents have vacations, no one usually knows their whereabouts. Who knew Qin Xiao would take her home directly? Tony walked in with an envelope in his hand. "Qin, what have you been up to lately? I haven't seen you for a few days. It took you so long to get Nicole to open the door. Do you have a woman hidden at home?" He threw the envelope into Qin Xiao's hand. "Hurry up and give me the wine you stole from me. I want to have a drink with you." "You don't know that I've been with Pepper recently." "What? Natasha, you two are actually living together?" Tony was talking when he suddenly saw Natasha in her home clothes slowly walking out of the bedroom. He put his arm around Qin Xiao's shoulders with a look of seeing a ghost. "Did I disturb your good thing just now?" "Hee. What are you thinking, kid? Tell me. You are just over 20 years old this year. My God, you actually brought a woman back to your home. Isn't the presidential suite of the hotel good? You won't give up a forest at such a young age. I tell you, it's shameful for a man who has never been a lumberjack." Tony punched Qin Xiao's ribs twice fiercely, then turned to the Black Widow with a sincere face and said, "I didn't expect that you two are officially together. Congratulations, Natasha. Congratulations to you." Chapter 105 Brother-in-law is here to take care of you. This time the photo was a group photo of 4 people, a fake agent couple, and Natasha and Yelena. The 4 of them smiled so sweetly that if you didn't know, you would think they were a very happy family. On the back of the photo it was written, only I thought this was a real family. Those 3 years were the easiest life I've ever had in my life. I once thought it was real. Everything before was just a dream. I really treated you as my sister, Yelena. Black Widow muttered to herself for a long time in front of the photo, and then said to Qin Xiao with extraordinary determination, "Qin, I want to find her." A photo came every few days, and I didn't know how long it would take for Yelena to contact Black Widow. Taking the initiative is indeed a good idea. Yelena is the bait set by Dreykov. Qin Xiao knew there was a problem and sent it to the door himself. The two of them were willing to fight and the other was willing to be beaten. Qin Xiao and Black Widow soon found her trace. I don't know if Dreykov was afraid that Qin Xiao and others would not be able to find Yelena. Tony checked the surveillance of the building and found that the same boy delivered the letters twice. The boy named Hobson lived not far away. Every day he would watch a group of older kids playing basketball in a nearby park. In the words of the boy, the older sister would find him at the basketball court every time and pay him $20 to deliver the letters. She also told him to stuff half of the envelope into the designated mailbox when no one was around. "Sir, are you the FBI? Was I used by someone to deliver some confidential information? Will I go to jail for it?" "No. You helped us a lot and you will be rewarded for it." Qin Xiao shook his hands and conjured up a new handheld game console like a magic trick. "Wow," the teenager exclaimed. "Thank you, sir. Do you need me to do anything to help you?" "You just need to come here every day to watch them play basketball, just like usual." "I understand, sir. If that sister comes to me again, I will definitely find a way to hold her back so that you can catch her smoothly." Qin Xiao laughed and rubbed the child's head. "What a smart little clever ghost. I didn't expect you to be so careful." Black Widow smiled and said to Qin Xiao, who had just finished talking to the child and was walking towards her, before they looked at the surveillance and found the child, Qin Xiao ran to buy a new game console. "Of course, I'm an agent of SHIELD," Qin Xiao said proudly. "Level 1, rookie agent." Black Widow smiled and added, "Don't talk about this. Let's find a place to hide quickly. Maybe Yelena will come soon." Qin Xiao quickly changed the subject. As it turned out, Qin Xiao has good luck recently. The two stayed for an afternoon, and saw that the street basketball in the park was about to end. At this moment, a girl suddenly appeared at the corner. "Qin, I feel that is Yelena." Yelena seems to be the weak spot of Black Widow. At this moment, Black Widow is not as calm and rational as a top agent. "Don't get excited, Natasha. Let's take a look first and make sure first." Qin Xiao comforted Natasha and stared at the girl. Sure enough, the girl ran straight to the basketball court and walked straight towards Hobson. Black Widow held Qin Xiao's hand a little nervously. Just when the girl was more than 10 meters away from Hobson, Hobson turned around and saw the girl. Then, "Sister, run. There is a bad guy looking for you. He is ambushing nearby." Hobson suddenly shouted at Yelena. Yelena turned around and ran. "Shit!" Qin Xiao cursed angrily, and rushed out with Black Widow like a leopard. "You are a liar, boy. I will come back to get the game console from you," Qin Xiao shouted at Hobson while chasing. "I don't care, you old rascal who stalked the little sister. Come back to me if you dare. My dad will beat your dick, bastard." Hobson raised a shining middle finger to Qin Xiao. "I'm going to complain to the officials of the New York Education Department. The education of children is really a failure now. Where is the trust between people?" Qin Xiao complained depressedly. "Qin, go over there to flank her. Don't hurt her." Black Widow looked at the direction where Yelena ran and pointed Qin Xiao to another way. "No need to be so troublesome." Qin Xiao didn't care about shocking the world. He stopped and half-crouched, and jumped up suddenly. The concrete floor was shattered by Qin Xiao's steps, and a big pit was directly stepped out. The whole person flew more than 10 meters high like a gorilla and landed at the other end of the alley. He and Black Widow stalked Yelena one after another. "Oh my god, I seem to have caused a big trouble." Hobson, seeing the scene of Qin Xiao flying directly, his jaw almost dropped to the ground. He quickly packed up and prepared to run home, and before leaving, he did not forget to put the game console into his backpack. "Hobson, where are you going? Aren't you going home with me?" another child said to Hobson. "No, I have to go home right away. I have to ask my dad to move immediately. I'm in big trouble, man." Hobson carried his bag and fled. In the alley, Yelena, who was blocked, slowed down instead, turning around and said to Black Widow, "What's wrong? Are you going to find me to reminisce about the past, or are you here to kill me?" "My sister." Yelena's story is very complete and touching. especially for Black Widow, who finally found her sister. When Dreykov died, the Red House was taken over by someone else, and they used nerve agents to control all the Black Widows. Yes, Qin Xiao just learned that Black Widow is not a special name for Natasha. In fact, every agent who successfully graduated from the Red House will be awarded the title of Black Widow. As long as the Black Widow on a mission is seriously injured, they will control the seriously injured Black Widow to commit suicide directly. This kind of behavior is called scrapping in the Red House. Yelena also escaped the control of the potion by chance, so she hid from place to place to avoid the pursuit of the Red House. Recently, she came to the United States, which was not completely touched by the Red House. Unexpectedly, she still found traces of the Black Widow in the United States. She thought that the Black Widow was here to kill her, but she found that her target was Natasha and Qin Xiao. In order to distinguish, the Black Widow will be called by her name in the future. She recognized her sister, but because of being hunted and her childhood experience, she did not dare to trust anyone easily, so she made repeated attempts. The story is very complete and credible. If Qin Xiao hadn't heard Hawkeye mention that Dreykov was not dead, he might have believed Yelena's words. It's okay. You are safe. Stay here in the future, and your brother-in-law will take care of you. Qin Xiao smiled like an old fox. There is definitely no word for brother-in-law in the English system, but facing the sister-in-law, it always feels a little bit short if you don't write it out, isn't it? Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, haha. I had no idea at first, but when I thought about this relationship, I wondered if I should let Qin Xiao show some fraternity. There will be another chapter later. Chapter 106, Taking Advantage of the Situation. Late at night, Dreykov looked at the message sent back by Yelena on his mobile phone. A smile appeared on his lips. It seems that your people have successfully approached the target. Francis took out an unknown liquid with a metal shell from his pocket and put it on the table. Super concentrated anesthetic. No need for injection. Just pour it out. Even if it is a real Tyrannosaurus Rex within 10 meters, it can make it fall to the ground immediately. Developed by the military, it is specially used against the Hulk. Oh, you can also get things from the US military. Dreykov was a little surprised. The Hulk appeared in the public eye several times. Ordinary people who didn't see it with their own eyes might be blocked from the news, but how could they hide it from the all-pervasive Red House leader like him? Otherwise, why do you think I have been so at ease staying in the United States? Francis said complacently. As one of the leaders of Hydra, Alexander Pierce has drilled holes in S.H.I.E.L.D. and the U.S. government. How could Francis not take the opportunity to arrange a few of his own people to go in? Qin Xiao's strength is extraordinary, and there is also Natasha Romanov by his side. In 2 days, when they completely trust my people, it won't be too late for us to take action. Dreykov has his own little plan in mind. Even if he has Qin Xiao in his hands, no one can be sure whether he can develop such a powerful super serum. It is better to control Qin Xiao directly, which can not only make him cooperate with the development of the serum, but also have an extra super weapon in his hands. Why not do it? He has ordered the scientists in the Red Room to do their best to synthesize a super concentrated nerve agent, striving to directly control Qin Xiao and use it for themselves. When the nerve agent arrives, it will be the best time to take action. If it doesn't work, use the anesthetic given by Francis. After a few days of getting along, Yelena has begun to gradually trust Natasha and Qin Xiao. At least on the surface, it looks like this. Not only will she start to slowly tell Natasha about her experiences over the years, but she also quietly removes some small mechanisms at the door of the room when she is sleeping. These changes made Natasha very happy. On the other hand, she felt sorry for what kind of life Yelena had lived over the years. She even slept so carefully at night. Qin Xiao kept his attitude of seeing through but not saying anything. He happily watched the two sisters together every day. Finally, on the 8th day of Yelena's arrival, Qin Xiao received a call from Tony. The party is ready. You can come anytime. Okay. Qin Xiao hung up the phone with a smile. Natasha, I need to go to Los Angeles, to Tony's house. I think you can go with me. Yelena also needs to meet some new friends, and she should have her own normal social life. Whenever Tony has any new ideas, about armor, reactor, or other new gadgets, he always returns to his mansion in Marbury. Los Angeles, and dives into his underground garage laboratory. Everyone has become accustomed to the disappearance of this scientific genius from time to time, so Natasha did not doubt Tony's sudden return to Los Angeles, but followed Qin Xiao and Yelena to board the plane. Do you want to visit the birthplace of Iron Man? Or to be more precise, the birthplace of Iron Man? Beauties, Qin Xiao said happily to Natasha and Yelena at the door of Tony's house. Jarvis, open the door. Well, sorry, Mr. Qin, your authority has been revoked by Mr. Stark. He said that you all have your own lives now, so it's better to keep a little distance. Mr. Stark agreed to your request to enter, but for some reason, he asked me to open the door in 1 minute. After entering, you can go directly to the basement. Although the door has closed the authority, the basement has not changed. Thank you, Jarvis. Please take a photo of my gesture and send it to Tony Stark, immediately, Qin Xiao said with his middle finger. Natasha pulled Yelena aside to explain to her. She knew that Tony was taking revenge for being blocked by Qin Xiao at the door last time. A group of 3 people entered the basement. Tony was debugging an iron armor. His fingers quickly entered one command after another on the keyboard. As these commands were executed, the armor next to him made movements one by one. He even gave Qin Xiao a middle finger. The effect is not bad. I am trying to enter commands so that Jarvis can independently control the armor to make some movements, or fight independently. This is a big project. Natasha, is this your sister? Let me think about what her name is. Yelena. Yes, Yelena. Congratulations on finding her sister. Tony greeted the 2 sisters. Qin Xiao spoke to Yelena like coaxing a child. Want to touch it? It's okay. Go up and try it. Although Yelena was controlled by someone, she was basically curious. The famous iron armor, of course, wanted to go up and take a good look. Carefully walked around the armor and reached out to touch the material of the armor. Suddenly, the armor's right-hand thruster spurted out flames, and the armor's right arm swung back and hit Yelena's back of the head. Yelena was caught off guard and fell to the ground with a muffled groan. Hey, what are you doing, Tony? Natasha shouted with concern and walked towards Yelena. Qin Xiao grabbed Natasha and made a gesture to silence her, but he said, Tony, are you crazy? Why do you control the armor to knock Yelena out? This is an accident. As you know, I was debugging its program. Maybe Yelena's actions made it mistakenly think that someone was attacking it. Jarvis, quickly scan what went wrong. Do you understand what I mean? Tony said with a hint of meaning. I understand completely, sir. A red light shone down from the top of the garage and slowly scanned Yelena's body. Although Natasha was a little confused, she kept silent out of trust in Qin Xiao and watched what they were doing. There is no monitoring device, sir, but there is a GPS satellite signal locator in Miss Yelena's thigh. The red light turned into a red dot and stayed in the middle of Yelena's right thigh, pointed out the location of the tracker. After hearing that there was no monitoring device, Qin Xiao and Tony both breathed a sigh of relief. Natasha also reacted. You suspected Yelena's purpose from the beginning, and you have been hiding it from me? Don't be angry, dear. After all, we just got attacked and she came to our door. How could it be such a coincidence? Qin Xiao whistled at Tony. Are you ready? Don't worry. Tony pushed out a huge white instrument from the middle of a row of cars. It looked like a court or MRI machine in a hospital. What is this? What else are you hiding from me? Natasha said dissatisfiedly. It's the latest brain scanner. I made some modifications to it. It can clearly scan the neuron movement of the entire brain. To put it simply, we can test whether your sister is being controlled by someone else. Chapter 107. Mantis catches cicada. What if she is controlled by someone else? Is there any way to restore her? Natasha was very nervous about Yelena's problem. It depends on her luck. There are 2 ways to control people. One is stupid, which is to constantly brainwash and hypnotize her, plus some specific instructions composed of certain words. This control method is very expensive, but the effect is unexpectedly good. It is difficult to completely get rid of control. There is also a physical level, such as inputting a chip into the brain, or some kind of neuropharmaceutical, etc. This is simpler. Just remove the chip or develop an antidote, Tony said confidently. As long as it is physical, he can think of a way to solve it. Qin, Move Yelena to the instrument. Damn it, you don't want me to do this, right? I'm just helping out of friendship. Tony started the instrument and slowly began to scan Yelena's brain. Natasha looked at her sister with a worried look. Qin Xiao was much more rational. We just knocked her out. Although we can attribute this to the loss of control of your armor, if she wakes up midway, and we are not sure to help her release the control today, it will affect the subsequent plans. Don't worry, Tony said confidently. I added a small device to the instrument. If her brain waves start to become active, she will be automatically injected with a sedative. Don't worry, it's very safe. It won't damage her brain. It will just let her sleep well, Tony explained to Natasha, who had a dark face. Sir, the scan is complete. Jarvis' voice came. Great job. Form a three-dimensional projection. Let us take a good look at what is going on in Natasha's mind. As soon as Tony finished speaking, Jarvis projected a brain model on the ground that Tony had modified. Tony walked over and opened his hands suddenly, and the entire projection suddenly expanded to the size of a room. There were dots of stars inside, and it looked like a starry sky. Let me see. Each neuron shows normal, which means they have enough thinking ability and behavioral logic, but Tony zoomed in on a certain area. Unlike before, each small bright spot like a star here has a layer of fog-like thing on it. It seems that the problem lies here. Jarvis, what do you think this looks like? It looks like some kind of inhibitor that can manipulate a person's consciousness, just like a line of code you wrote in my program, so that I can always serve you, sir. That's right. Natasha, you are lucky. You are lucky. It is some kind of nerve agent that controls your sister. I think I can solve it. There are many biologists in Stark Industries. It may not be a short time to completely produce an antidote for this nerve agent, but if instruments and drugs are used to temporarily help Yelena get rid of the control of the nerve agent, it is not a big trouble for Tony. A few days later, in Qin Xiao's New York apartment, a burst of pink smoke suddenly appeared in the living room. Qin Xiao and Natasha, who were sitting on the sofa watching TV together, shook a few times and fell straight down. Yelena picked up the phone expressionlessly and reported to Dreykov. Well done, kid. 2 widows will come up to pick you up in 10 minutes. Leave everything to them. I'll wait for you to come and meet me. Okay. Yelena hung up the phone neatly. Then she walked to a position with her back to the window and winked at Qin Xiao and Natasha on the ground. On the outskirts of New York, the farm where Francis lived, the farm, which was originally empty, was now brightly lit. Not only were there 4 or 5 cars parked at the door of the farmhouse, but there was also a jet quietly parked next to it. Francis looked at the 2 super soldiers behind Dreykov and several expressionless widows. He said with some jealousy, 2 super soldiers like Captain America, and those poor little widows behind you, General Dreykov. You now look more majestic than the President of the United States. Dreykov laughed. He took Francis' hand and comforted him. Look forward, my friend. Our cooperation has just begun. All this is nothing. In the near future, we can join hands to conquer the world, right? Francis was about to say something. There was a roar of a car in the distance, and an inconspicuous black SUV drove towards the farm. The headlights on the car flashed 3 times in a row towards the farm, 1 long and 2 short. It's our people. Look, our future is here. Francis laughed from the bottom of his heart this time. As soon as the car stopped, he didn't care about Dreykov and walked quickly towards the car. Several men and the super soldier followed closely behind, but what he didn't notice was that Dreykov slowly retreated several meters to the back. As soon as the car stopped, the 2 widows and Yelena opened the back door and threw Qin Xiao and Natasha, who pretended to be unconscious, to the ground roughly. Qin Xiao, Francis smiled triumphantly. You ruined my plan last time. I didn't get the arc reactor, and Ivan Vanko was blown into a pile of rotten meat. But it doesn't matter because I found something better. You are the best gift God has given me. Haha. As soon as the voice fell, several slight gunshots with silencers rang out around him. If Francis's dynamic vision was abnormal enough, he would be able to see that several transparent bullets filled with liquid pierced through the air in the night sky, and then hit Qin Xiao's body and smashed into pieces. A strong pink fog filled the air, covering an area of several meters in radius. Ha 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 ha. Drekov's triumphant laughter rang out from the periphery of the pink fog. The child I personally raised. I can feel the slightest wrong tone. You want to use the same trick to lure me out. Natasha, Yelena, you two really underestimated me. The owner of the Red House, Dreykov, was really too happy. Qin Xiao, the defected Natasha, and the leader of Hydra were also harvested. It was a great harvest. From the moment Yelena released her control and gave him her first report, he knew something was wrong with Yelena. Since the other party wanted to play tricks on him, he simply pretended to be the best. Several widows were ambushed here early in the morning. As soon as Qin Xiao and the others got out of the car, several snipers fired special bullets made of nerve agents together. All the people present were controlled in one fell swoop. This was Dreykov's ultimate kill. Chapter 108. The Yellow Bird Behind. The pink fog covered the area for more than 2 minutes before it slowly dissipated under the breeze. Francis and 3 of his men plus a super soldier, the 2 widows sent out by Dreykov. Finally, Qin Xiao, Natasha and Yelena. 10 people, a full 10 people. After the nerve agent slowly dissipated, 10 standing still figures were revealed. Dreykov was very cautious. Even at this moment, he still waited until the fog was completely dissipated, until he could see clearly that all 10 people were standing still in the same place. There was a trace of confusion in his eyes. Then he waved his hand and asked the 2 super soldiers behind him to step forward. Crush his wrist bones for me. Dreykov pointed at Francis. A super soldier nodded slightly, stepped forward and grabbed Francis' wrist. With a click, with a twist and a squeeze, a tooth-grinding sound of bone cracking came. Francis groaned. Cold sweat broke out on his face, but he was still looking ahead in confusion. Dreykov nodded with satisfaction, and then pointed at Natasha and Yelena. Kill them both. Those who betrayed the Red House can only be recycled as scrap. The 2 super soldiers heard the order and strode towards Natasha and Yelena without saying a word. Halfway through, the 2 had already pulled out a dagger, and a cold light flashed. The dagger slashed towards the sisters at lightning speed. Ah! A faint sigh sounded, a figure flashed, and Qin Xiao was already standing in front of the sisters, reaching out to hold the wrists of the 2 super soldiers. Ka-ka! With 2 consecutive sounds, Qin Xiao twisted his hands and directly dislocated the wrists of the 2 super soldiers holding the daggers. Then, one of them kicked the 2 super soldiers and kicked them directly to Dreykov's side. Natasha and Yelena almost simultaneously pulled out their pistols and pointed them at Dreykov. I thought you would come right over, but I didn't expect you to be so careful. Qin Xiao sighed. He didn't believe Yelena at the beginning, so he arranged an ambush here and gave her a special bullet with a god-level potion. Then there was the temptation of the super soldier. It's no wonder that Dreykov could lead the Red House to live safely until now. He was too careful. It's always right to be careful, otherwise I would have died in Natasha's hands a few years ago. Now I really want to know why my nerve potion doesn't work on you guys at all. In this situation, under Qin Xiao's absolute combat power, Dreykov can be said to have no hope of escape. He can also be regarded as a general. He calmly asked the answer he wanted most. It was precisely because of this that Qin Xiao opened his mouth to answer his question. Tony Stark, he not only has a genius mind, but also has a little bit of obsessive-compulsive disorder. After learning about the existence of this kind of nerve agent that controls people, he not only developed an antidote, but also added a little bit of new things. You can think of it as a vaccine controlled by immune chemical drugs. Qin Xiao now secretly praised Tony in his heart. In the situation tonight, even if the nerve agent did not work on him, once Natasha and Yelena were controlled, he would definitely not be able to keep Dreykov because of his many concerns. Iron Man, I almost forgot that you have such a good friend. You are worthy of being Tony Stark. I like such people. You should know how to take insurance first when doing things, just like me. And I always take more than one insurance. As soon as Dreykov finished speaking, he stretched out his hand and pressed his watch. The 7 people around Qin Xiao, except Natasha and Yelena, all turned around and rushed towards Qin Xiao and the other 2. Faced with this situation, Qin Xiao did not move at all. Since Tony developed the drug, how could he not carry it with him? Natasha had several tubes of red glowing medicine in her hands, and she smashed them hard on the ground. Red smoke rose up and directly merged into the bodies of the controlled people through their pores. Almost instantly, the eyes of several people regained clarity. Dreykov was running towards the plane, and Qin Xiao was about to jump over and take him down. A chill suddenly rose from Qin Xiao's back, and a dangerous intuition enveloped Qin Xiao's heart. Without hesitation, Qin Xiao flew up, picked up Natasha and Yelena in one hand, and threw them directly to the ground a few meters away. Almost at the moment Qin Xiao flew up, the car next to him exploded. The huge air wave directly blew the car into the sky, and then the whole car exploded again in the air. Metal fragments whizzed out from the exploding car. It directly enveloped the surrounding area of several meters. Fortunately, Qin Xiao had just carried the two sisters and flew away, and the three of them were lying on the ground, so they were not hurt by these fragments. Looking at the 7 people again, except for the super soldier who was full of fragments and seriously injured but not dead, the rest of them were almost beaten into sieves. One move after another, not only were there 2 bombs in the car, but some metal fragments, steel balls and other objects were also placed in the bombs inside the car to enhance the lethality. Especially the explosion of the first bomb directly blew the vehicle into the sky, but the vehicle did not suffer much damage. It was obvious that the chassis of the car had been tampered with, and the second bomb in the car was triggered in midair. One thing after another, beyond your expectations. Qin Xiao quickly went through all the things in his mind, and couldn't help but secretly admire Dreykov's caution, ferocity and cunning in his heart. Compared with those leaders of Hydra, this Dreykov is more like a cobra hidden in the shadows. Are you two okay? Are you injured? After the explosion, Qin Xiao asked the 2 sisters who were protected under his arms with concern. We're fine. The 2 looked at each other, and Natasha spoke. Qin, don't let him run away. Don't worry, he can't get away. Qin Xiao glanced at Dreykov who was about to board the plane and said confidently. He jumped and rushed directly towards the plane. Not to mention that the plane has not taken off yet. Even if it has just taken off and is a few meters or more than 10 meters above the ground, as long as it has not started to accelerate, Qin Xiao can directly knock the plane down. While in midair, Qin Xiao had already reached out to touch his crotch. He planned to directly destroy the propeller of the plane with a tang sword. During the cautious period, before the person arrived, Qin Xiao planned to use the tang sword hidden weapon to directly smash a propeller. As a result, Qin Xiao once again underestimated the cruelty and cunningness of Dreykov. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109, Dreykov's Backhand. Before boarding the plane, Dreykov saw Qin Xiao jumping over and gave an order directly to the 2 super soldiers. Then, the 2 super soldiers jumped at Qin Xiao in midair. Although the super soldiers did not have the abnormal jumping ability of Qin Xiao was already falling. The 2 super soldiers ran to Qin Xiao's thighs from the left and right. Obviously, the 2 wanted to grab Qin Xiao's ankles, restrict his mobility, and buy some precious time for Dreykov to leave. In response, Qin Xiao just smiled slightly. The man bowed in midair, and the tang sword slashed from left to right. As long as the 2 super soldiers came over, they would definitely say goodbye to their bodies before they could grab Qin Xiao's ankles. Who would have thought that when Qin Xiao bowed and drew his sword, the 2 super soldiers laughed grimly and pressed the detonators in their hands. Fuck. Qin Xiao only saw the detonators in their hands. After working all night, Qin Xiao, who was full of confidence, was finally forced to swear in Chinese by Dreykov's backup moves. Strong light and heat burst out in the air. The 2 human bombs generated huge heat and shock waves. Qin Xiao was blown back in the direction he came from, and he flew backwards until he passed Natasha and her sister more than 10 meters before he fell heavily to the ground. Looking at the jet plane again, it had accelerated and turned directly into a small dot in the sky. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Qin Xiao cursed 3 times in anger. To be honest, what happened tonight was that Francis and Dreykov's conspiracy was exposed. Even if Dreykov played all his cards, he still lost both his wife and his troops, and finally could only flee and panic like a stray dog. But Qin Xiao didn't think much about it. His purpose today was to run towards Dreykov, but he didn't expect that even if he was prepared, he still escaped. Damn it. I should have called Tony earlier. I was too arrogant, Qin Xiao said indignantly. It doesn't matter. He has already suffered a lot today. We still have a chance, don't we? Natasha should have been more eager to kill Dreykov than Qin Xiao, but seeing that Qin Xiao felt a little guilty, she went up to comfort him. We didn't expect that he would arrange so many backups. This is not your fault, Qin. When we first arrived, someone around us fired special nerve agent bullets at us. They should be widows trained by the Red House. Let's find them first and help them get rid of the control, right? Yelena changed the subject. Dreykov, who returned from the plane in defeat, opened a tablet with a gloomy face, quickly called up the 3 widows who had just ambushed in the distance, and started the self-destruction program without hesitation. In Qin Xiao's apartment, the 3 people were unhappy and sat on the balcony with a bottle of beer. It was fine that Dreykov had left. The 3 widows found afterwards had all committed suicide. The 3 young girls who could have been saved by the antidote had turned directly into 3 cold corpses. So the 3 people at this time were a little depressed and didn't want to talk, especially Qin Xiao. Listening to Natasha and Yelena's stories about their experiences in the Red House, especially the feeling of being controlled as Yelena said, knowing what she had done and what she had done, but just couldn't control her body and behavior. She could only watch her bullets and daggers constantly killing innocent or evil people, but they were not the people she wanted to kill. Even the emotions of sadness and guilt were suppressed and could not be expressed. They could only be suppressed in the depths of the soul and constantly bite back at her conscience and humanity. Qin Xiao put himself in their shoes and thought about it. If he became like this, he would be horrified. Qin Xiao is not a saint, and he doesn't have the so-called superhero consciousness, at least not yet, but this kind of inhumane behavior, when he has the ability to stop it, I believe every normal person will stop it. Just like watching some bastards who abuse the elderly and children on the news. If the law doesn't care, I believe many people will want to beat these scum to death. As if sensing Qin Xiao's anger, the system timely issued a new task: destroy the Red House, rescue all the widows controlled by the nerve agent, and reward 1,000 points, kill Dreykov, and reward accessories. Widow's sweetie, puff. The dull atmosphere of the 3 people was broken by Qin Xiao spitting out a mouthful of beer. The 2 sisters looked at Qin Xiao unkindly. It's okay, I'm thinking about something else. Qin Xiao explained quickly. System, explain to me what the widow's sweetie is. Are you going to reward me with a donut necklace? How about a bracelet inlaid with strawberries? After the host completes the task, he will naturally know the purpose of the reward. Please do not simply imagine and speculate based on the name. That will make the host appear very shallow. For some reason, Qin Xiao could always taste a trace of contempt from the lifeless voice of the system. He cursed in his heart. He forced himself not to argue with a non-intelligent life. He turned to Natasha and her sister and said, "Didn't you two receive training in the Red House? Don't you know where their base is? No matter how secret it is, or if you are blindfolded, you are agents. At least you can judge a general direction." Qin Xiao didn't believe that Dreykov could hide so deeply, without any clues. After my sister joined SHIELD, Dreykov moved the Red House base. For safety reasons, each of us widows must take a tranquilizer before entering and leaving the base. And in the base, there are no windows in the places we are authorized to go to, and there is no place to see the outside, so we don't know where the base is at all. Yelena shrugged and said helplessly, "What about that person? Is there anyone who works for the Red House, or has a higher level than you? It can't be that only Dreykov knows where the Red House is, right?" Qin Xiao asked unwillingly. "I do know such a person. He may know where the Red House is," Natasha suddenly said faintly. Yelena glanced at her sister and suddenly seemed to understand something. "You mean Dad?" When Natasha and Yelena were hiding in the United States as children, the agent Alexei Shostakov played the role of their father in the temporary family. He was once the only super soldier in the former Soviet Union who was injected with super serum. The nickname is the Red Guardian, and there is also the Soviet captain. The person who plays your father is so famous, a former Soviet superhero, Captain Soviet. According to what you said, he may not cooperate with us, and he must not be easy to contact. right?" Qin Xiao asked curiously. "It's indeed not easy to contact." Natasha shrugged and said, "He lives in a prison in Siberia." Chapter 110. Actually, being in jail is pretty good. Siberia. In fact, there are still many people living in the east and west of Siberia, especially in the west, which is known as the granary of Russia. The truly bitter and barren land is in the north of Siberia. It is close to the Arctic Circle, and the average temperature every winter is -70 degrees. It is a truly barren land. The prison where Natasha and Yelena's father Alexei is imprisoned is in this place. The prison is located in a natural basin surrounded by high mountains. The high mountains with snow all year round and no paths at all are natural walls and barriers. The prison was transformed from several large abandoned barracks, and all the surroundings were sealed, leaving only one exit. Outside the exit is a simple steel corridor that is erected high, and together with the wall below, the entrance and exit of the prison are cut into several small paths with different functions. Some go out, some come in, some escort prisoners, and some escort supplies. In an orderly manner, the soldiers on the steel corridor lazily walked back and forth with guns. The surrounding harsh natural environment and weather are the best barriers for the prison. Compared to the ice outside, the prison is warm and full of spring. Many prisoners even sit around the table with their shirts bare and chat loudly. The comfortable temperature in the prison is not only for humanitarianism, but also to prevent jailbreaks. The temperature inside makes the prison provide prisoners with nothing more than a vest and a thin coat, as long as you dare to go out. Even if the prison guards don't shoot, you will be frozen to death before you climb the snow-capped mountains on all sides. So even though most of the prisoners imprisoned here are extremely vicious, the prison guards are still in a leisurely state. When Alexei was young, he participated in several battles as a super soldier, and then he was thrown into the United States as an undercover spy by Dreykov, who was a general at the time. After returning from the mission in the United States, for some unknown reason, Alexei was thrown directly into this prison by Dreykov. More than 10 years have passed. So Alexei, the Red Guard, is not well known outside, but in this prison, everyone knows Alexei, the super soldier. But more often, he is the object of ridicule and teasing by prison guards and criminals after lunch. After all, he has the same superhuman physique as Captain America, the only super soldier in the former Soviet Union, and a war superhero that the country is preparing to create. But he is locked up in this shitty place with a bunch of scum. His identity is definitely the best psychological comfort for the frustrated prison guards and criminals who are destined to stay here for life. Bang, haha. Come on. Next one. After living in prison for more than 10 years, Alexei, who is fat and bearded, broke the wrist of another criminal who looks as strong as a bear directly on the table. This is almost an entertainment activity after lunch every day in this prison, choosing a few strong people to arm wrestle with Alexei, while satisfying Alexei's need to show his own strength. It is more to listen to Alexei bragging about his previous heroic stories. Those stories always revolve around Alexei's personal heroism and are extremely exaggerated. Many people listen to them as jokes. After all, in the boring prison life, listening to Alexei bragging is a good pastime. Bang! Alexei defeated an opponent who looked unusually tall again. Yeah, I am the invincible Red Guardian. Only Captain America is as strong as me in this world. In Alexei's heart, he hopes to become a national hero like Captain America, not a criminal in prison, so most of his bragging is related to Captain America. It was in the 1980s, I can't remember the exact year, I met Captain America while on a mission. His shield was facing me, ha 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 ha. Captain America was declared dead in 1945. Did you fight a ghost? A new prisoner pointed at Alexei and laughed. As soon as this sentence came out, all the prisoners around him kept silent. The prisoners who have been detained here for a long time know that you can treat Alexei as a fool to make fun of him, but you must not laugh at him when he brags about his heroic deeds. Otherwise, crack. A crisp bone-breaking sound was heard, and Alexei went over and bent the new prisoner's right arm into a weird angle. Are you questioning my words? Do you suspect that I am bragging? I am the Red Guardian, kid. If it were not for political reasons, I would be more respected than Captain America. Do you feel how powerful I am, rookie? Alexei ignored the wailing of the new prisoner and punched the metal table with a deep dent. "Don't question my words, remember, I am the strongest man in the world, Alexei. No one can be stronger than me, no one." Alexei pounded on the table frantically, roaring that he was the strongest man in the world. As soon as he finished speaking, bang! With a loud bang, the wall next to the restaurant, which was 50 centimeters thick and even had a layer of steel plate sandwiched between it, the wall that Alexei had used to vent his anger on, and after a few punches, his blood was flowing but it did not shake at all, suddenly broke open with a large hole with a diameter of 2 or 3 meters. Across the big hole stood a young Oriental man, or rather, a man with a fist stretched out. There were still a few pieces of debris on his fist from smashing the wall. The man shook his head and retracted his fist. Just as he was about to step in, he found that there was a protruding steel plate below that blocked his steps. Pouting with some dissatisfaction, the young Oriental man did not raise his leg and step over directly. Instead, he kicked the steel plate lightly, and the protruding small piece of steel plate was directly cracked by the kick, and then passed by Alexei with a whistling sound, and was deeply embedded in the opposite wall. "Who is Alexei Shostakov? It's time for you to be released from prison. Follow me." The prisoners around Alexei all stepped to both sides. Alexei was left standing there alone, naked, looking at Qin Xiao's eyes looking at him. Alexei swallowed a mouthful of saliva. I am that. Can I stay in this place? Actually, being in jail is pretty good. I really don't want to get out. Actually, in the movie, Alexei said that he had fought with Captain America in the 1980s. I suspect that Marvel has set up a little foreshadowing for Captain America who went back to the past to complete the date. Of course, it may or may not be used. After all, Marvel is used to burying the pit first, but for the sake of the completeness of the plot, it is impossible for Captain America to appear in the 1980s, so just treat him as nonsense. Anyway, Alexei's attribute in the movie is that he likes to brag and live in the past. Chapter 111 Unreliable Father. Maybe Qin Xiao himself didn't realize that as his friendship with Tony, Natasha and others deepened. With the contact with Ancient One and Asgard, his own strength and influence in this world grew day by day. Qin Xiao's style of doing things also gradually became more high profile. In the past, he had to hide and come in secretly to save people. Unlike now, he came in carelessly and directly bumped into the wall. Behind him were the crazy alarms and the soldiers in the distance who were lining up to charge. "Natasha and Yelena asked me to save you. It's up to you whether you leave or not." Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and touched his crotch, and a photo appeared in Qin Xiao's hand. It was the family photo of Alexei and his family of 4. "Natasha, Yelena, my daughters." Alexei took the photo tremblingly. "Then you are." "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up." After Alexei completed his mission in the United States, he watched Ryakov's people take Natasha and Yelena away in Cuba. He allowed 2 little girls who called him dad to be arrested and taken to the dreaded Red House. So Qin Xiao really didn't have a good temper with him. If he was Natasha's biological father, he might be a little polite, even if the other party was an out-and-out scumbag. But this fake one in front of him, there was nothing worthy of Qin Xiao's politeness. Grabbing Alexei's clothes, Qin Xiao directly lifted up the man who claimed to be as famous as Captain America. The leisurely soldiers were also trained regular troops. When Qin Xiao carried Alexei out, the soldiers in the steel corridor above had already formed a formation and pointed their guns at the 2 people below. "How are you going to fight your way out? In fact, you can consider putting me down. I can deal with 100 of these soldiers alone." Alexei was lifted by Qin Xiao like a big toad, desperately bending his arms to show Qin Xiao his biceps that had long disappeared. "No need. Are you afraid of heights?" Qin Xiao asked lightly after taking a look at the height of the wall. "I said you need ... What? Fear of heights?" "Yes, fear of heights." Qin Xiao just finished speaking, holding Alexei's right hand and swung it backwards, and then threw it forward with force. Amid Alexei's screams, he had already jumped over the wall and slammed heavily on the thick snow outside. A large human-shaped pit was directly smashed out. Before he could get up, Qin Xiao had already whizzed down from the air and landed beside him. "What are you going to do?" "No, wait, After 7 or 8 jumps, He had jumped directly from the prison to the top of the mountain opposite the prison. In order to prevent an avalanche, Natasha parked the jet on the mountain. Qin Xiao threw Alexei into the plane without any courtesy and strode into the plane. "Oh, Natasha, Yelena, you have grown so big. My God, my daughters." Alexei climbed up from the cabin, stretched out his arms and said excitedly to Natasha and Yelena. What greeted him was the calm eyes of the two sisters. "What, don't you miss your dad? Don't be shy, come on, you are all here to save me, right? They saved you so that you can tell them where your good friend, Drekov's nest is, not because they miss your so-called dad." Qin Xiao went over and pressed Alexei on the seat and said, "Drekov, don't mention that bastard to me. I completed my mission in the United States perfectly. I don't know why he did it. I said something wrong and offended him, or something else, and he threw me in this damn prison for more than 10 years. By the way, who are you? Why are you so powerful? What is your relationship with my daughter?" In front of the two daughters, Alexei straightened his chest again. She asked Qin Xiao from a father's perspective. "Shut up. Our relationship has nothing to do with you. You are not our real father. We came to you to find Drekov. You'd better tell us everything you know." Natasha turned around and yelled at Alexei, "Is this your purpose? You came to me when you have something to do." "Yelena, what about you?" Yelena looked back, opened her mouth, and said nothing. "Why do you have a stinky face? Are those days of your month coming?" Alexei asked shamelessly. "I don't have those days, my dear father. Since you threw us into the Red Room, after we successfully graduated, we were removed from our uterus, ovaries, etc., and cold surgical instruments were stuffed into our bodies, cutting here and there, and our fallopian tubes." "Oh, stop it, this is really disgusting," Alexei said with a pout. "Pa." Qin Xiao slapped him directly. You hit me." Not only Alexei, but also Natasha and Yelena were stunned. "You think this is disgusting? Do you know how much pain they have suffered because you left them alone? You could have stopped it, but you didn't. Their internal reproductive organs were removed. This is what they did to your daughter. Do you think it's disgusting? Have you ever tried to have your reproductive organs removed? Have you ever tried to have your balls stepped on like a burrito? Do you want to try it?" Qin Xiao grabbed Alexei's collar and said viciously. Alexei was stunned for a moment. His mouth moved a few times, looking at Qin Xiao's murderous eyes, but in the end he didn't say anything. "I'll give you 3 minutes to think about how to find Drekov, otherwise I'll throw you down from a height of tens of thousands of meters. Do you hear me, bastard?" The whole audience fell silent. In fact, whether it was Natasha or Yelena, they didn't know who their biological parents were, so the 3 years of family life in the United States had a great impact on them. Alexei really treated them like a real father in those years, so they have feelings for Alexei. Qin Xiao's words not only made Alexei fall into silence, but also the two of them silently shed tears, especially Yelena. Natasha at least knew that it was fake, no matter how real it was, and she was mentally prepared, but for Yelena, it was the first home in her memory. Alexei was silent for a long time before he slowly spoke. "I really don't know where Drekov is, but I think Melina should know, that is, your mother. Yesterday a reader gave 1 star, it doesn't matter, it's a matter of personal choice, but his initial reason was why the super serum is so useful. Captain America can fly. Alas, I have such a strong desire to survive, but I don't know how to refute it for a while. Mentality. Chapter 112. A flavorful cigar. Speaking of Natasha's temporary family, everyone is actually quite unfortunate. Natasha didn't know who her parents were when she was born. Not long after she started to remember, she was thrown into the Red House. She was trained, killed, and struggled to survive among a group of children. She finally survived, but she faced a more cruel life after graduation. Yelena was said to be the most talented child killer when she was a child. God knows what she has experienced. Alexei, the man with the halo of a super soldier, wanted to become a superhero of the country and be a man like Captain America. As a result, he finally completed an undercover mission in the United States. He originally thought that he could wear his own uniform and be his own superhero, but he was thrown into prison and bragged with prisoners for more than 10 years. Melina, the mother in this family, was also a widow of the Red House when she was young, but she was luckier than others because she had the mind of a scientist. That's why she went undercover with Alexei to the Northern Research Institute in Ohio, USA, stole their research data, and burned the rest of the backup. This information is the nerve agent that controls people. After the mission in the United States was completed, she was sent to a farm outside St. Petersburg to raise pigs. In fact, it was a further improvement experiment of nerve agents on pigs. Some time ago, Dreykov used the super-concentrated nerve agent to ambush Qin Xiao, and she contributed to it. In fact, these 4 people had their lives destroyed by the Red House, or Dreykov. Those 3 years in the United States may be one of the few times when they felt happiness and love. Of course, Qin Xiao knew all of the above after watching the family of 4 having a meal together and drinking some wine and confessing their feelings. But compared to Natasha and Yelena, who wanted to destroy the Red House and kill Dreykov, Alexei has been immersed in the glory of the past, and Melina has no courage to resist at all. If Qin Xiao hadn't been staring at her, she would have thought of notifying the Red House just now. We can't kill Dreykov. You don't know how many tricks he has. He has a pheromone that can invade your nerve center without color or smell. Then he will automatically recognizes the smell of Dreykov. People invaded by pheromones can't attack Dreykov. Is it not okay to hold your breath? Natasha asked. No, unless you cut off your olfactory nerves. Melina pointed to her nose. Then this pheromone can be directly killed or destroyed by high temperature. Do you understand what I mean? Qin Xiao suddenly interrupted and asked. Melina looked at Qin Xiao in surprise. It can be, but it requires a temperature of at least 800 degrees Celsius. If you have been invaded, 80 degrees is enough to roast you directly, so we can only... Oh my God! Before Melina finished speaking, Qin Xiao stood up and a raging fire came out of his body. 1500 degrees high temperature. You can smell whether I am cooked or not. The pheromone is definitely cooked. Qin Xiao snapped his fingers, and the fire on his body was extinguished instantly, leaving only a small flame on his fingers. Then he habitually pulled out a cigar from his crotch and lit it with the flame in his hand. He took a puff in a very pretentious manner. At the other end of the table, Alexei opened his mouth in surprise. Then he looked at the cigar Qin Xiao had just given him in horror, and then looked at Qin Xiao's crotch. He quickly put out the cigar and quickly took a sip of vodka to rinse his mouth. Pooh, pooh, pooh. The family of 4 had a unified goal and untied their knots. Before they officially went out to fight monsters together, there must be a warm conversation. The 2 daughters told their mother everything that happened in the past, especially the details of what happened to Qin Xiao. Iron Man and Shield were acceptable. Thor, Asgard, Ancient One, Supreme Sorcerer. Of course, it was just a rough introduction, and it didn't say that Qin Xiao was now a living Asgardian god. But these were enough to make Melina and Alexei a little confused. Compared with the Red House, this was a bit of a dimensionality reduction attack. Melina's story also made up for Natasha's regret and guilt to some extent. The first is that Natasha originally thought that she was abandoned by her parents. In fact, the Red House used some kind of program to select girls with potential. Natasha was one of them. Her parents received monetary compensation and were asked to keep it confidential. But Natasha's mother has always been brooding over this matter and vowed to find her daughter. And more than once, she revealed to the public that a mysterious department took her daughter away. Later, Natasha's parents were directly killed by Dreykov. The second thing was Antonia, Dreykov's youngest daughter. Natasha thought she had killed her, but in that explosion, it was not only Dreykov who survived, but also Antonia. It's just that she was disfigured in the explosion and was seriously injured. In the end, Dreykov implanted a chip in Antonia's neck. He also injected his daughter with a neurological agent and has been training her killing skills for the past few years. Beast. A beast without humanity. Antonia is only 13 or 14 years old. Not to mention that she is Dreykov's biological daughter. From the time he and Tony killed terrorists in the Middle East to now, this is the first time that Qin Xiao has been so eager to kill someone. Now there is only one problem left, about the base of the Red House. According to Melina's story, in order to prevent exposure and avoid detection by others, Dreykov used several huge jet propulsion engines to place the base tens of thousands of meters above the sky base. And according to Dreykov's cautious character, He never keeps the base in one place for more than a week, so it is difficult to lock the location of the base. Melina originally proposed that she'll leak the secret to the Red House, and then pretended to be caught when they arrived, and then suddenly attacked at the base. Let alone Qin Xiao being here, whether Dreykov dared to take them to the base. This method of luring the snake out of the hole is actually the same as Qin Xiao and his team's previous method, and Dreykov would not be fooled again. How do you usually contact Dreykov? Phone, or some other contact method? Qin Xiao turned to ask Melina. Email. Melina said a relatively backward way of contact, but it was also quite consistent with Dreykov's cautious and suspicious character. Internet. Qin Xiao's eyes lit up. Qin, it's not that easy to track their emails. Not to mention us. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. may not be able to do it. Natasha knew what Qin Xiao was thinking and immediately denied Qin Xiao's idea. Qin Xiao smiled indifferently. We don't track. We just pack a person into a mail and send it to them. Pack a person into an email, Yelena said with some doubt. Is there a god of the internet in addition to Thor and Vulcan in Asgard? There is definitely no god of the internet in Asgard, but Tony Stark definitely has it. Chapter 113 Breakthrough Sky Base. Jarvis, Tony Stark's artificial intelligence butler who has been constantly writing programs and gradually improving its functions since he was a child. It may not be the only artificial intelligence in the world, and it cannot even be considered a real artificial intelligence, but it is definitely the most advanced artificial intelligence system on the Earth. It may not be able to crack the internal system of the Red House immediately, but it is still no problem to use a few small experimental files to sneak into the other party's network to expose the address. At an altitude of 17,000 meters at the junction of Belarus, Ukraine and Russia, a double-layer fan-shaped sky base is floating quietly in this place. The main space of the base is in the 8 huge fan blades on the upper and lower floors. The entire base is almost fully enclosed, except for a few entrances and exits for aircraft landing. All other places are closed. The 4 fan blades on the lower floor are some widow training bases that have not yet graduated, prisons, and rest places for soldiers belonging to the Red House. The upper floors are mostly scientists' laboratories and leisure and entertainment areas. The 2 layers of fan blades are connected by a huge metal column in the middle. From a distance, it looks like a huge double-layer ceiling fan. Dreykov's office was on the top of the metal pillar in the middle. This notorious intelligence chief used the girls he had infiltrated into various industries around the world for many years, even around various bigwigs, to secretly control everything: stocks, oil, and even the regime changes in some small countries. He himself hid in what he thought was the safest place in the world, enjoying the feeling of stepping on all living things. This extremely cautious old fox may only feel safe and enjoy the feeling of relaxation by hiding in this sky base he built, but he never expected that at this moment, just a few hundred meters above his head, there was a jet plane swaying and hovering here. However, the radar system in the base that he was proud of strangely ignored the plane in the sky. The door of the plane was wide open, and the fierce airflow was raging in the cabin. Natasha and the other 4 people were sitting in their seats with seat belts fastened, and they were still holding the armrests on their seats tightly, except for Alexei, who was a little more relaxed. The other 3 ladies were speechless under the raging airflow. However, despite the strong airflow, 2 tall figures stood at the hatch, standing still in the strong airflow. Are you ready? Tony Stark, wearing a battle armor, turned his head and looked at Qin Xiao, and asked. Qin Xiao was more careful this time, and pulled Tony to reinforce, to ensure that the old fox Dreykov would never escape the hunter's gun this time. I don't need to prepare, man. I'm different from you. I'm a real man. I don't need to hide in a condom, Qin Xiao said and jumped down from the height of more than 10,000 meters. Natasha, as your friend, you'd better go to the hospital for a physical checkup. This guy doesn't care about physiological hygiene at all. After teasing Natasha slightly, Tony, wearing a battle armor, also jumped down. I feel like I have been eliminated by the times. The door of the plane slowly closed, and Alexei said with a sigh of relief. That's right, from now on, this world has entered a new era. It is no longer a world of agents and spies. This is a world of superheroes, an era of superpowers, Melina murmured as she looked at the hatch. Okay, the Vanguard has gone down. It's our turn to appear. Natasha smiled slightly and controlled the plane to land towards the sky base. Above the sky base, Tony, who had caught Qin Xiao in midair, threw Qin Xiao right above the base. You go find the evil big boss, and I'll go rescue those lovely girls. By the way, control your strength and don't destroy them too much. This base is nice, isn't it? Qin Xiao made an okay gesture. He understood what Tony meant. The Illuminati did need a base. Jarvis, mark all the air inlets of this base. Let's add some ambiguous colors to their monotonous air, Tony said as he took out a few tubes of concentrated neuropharmaceutical antidote from his armored arm. In Dreykov's office, as Tony sprinkled red neuroleptic antidote on each air inlet, the air in the entire base began to be filled with a faint red. Then it gradually became thicker and thicker. Finally, the alarm in the base began to sound. Dreykov jumped up from his office chair. Damn, what happened? He quickly switched to the big screen in the office, which showed the surveillance images of various locations in the base. On each screen, the air turned a faint red. Tony used the circulation of the ventilation system to quickly filter the antidote from the entire base. Dreykov picked up the intercom on the table and was about to give some orders. The only window in his office, a huge skylight on the ceiling, was violently smashed open. A figure fell down with broken glass fragments. Hello, General Dreykov, we meet again. Qin Xiao had a smile on his lips, but his eyes were frighteningly cold. In a training room on the lower level, more than 20 girls in their teens and 20s were doing combat training with blank eyes. They held their pistols and performed various tactical actions tirelessly again and again. A wisp of red smoke quietly merged into the air from the vent. Then came the second wisp, the third wisp, and more red smoke poured in. Suddenly, all the girls were stunned, and their eyes changed from lifeless and blank to blank. The girls who were released from control didn't know what to do for a moment. They all stood there blankly, experiencing the feeling of being completely in control of their own thoughts. Girls, I'm Natasha Romanoff, a Black Widow like you. Maybe when I graduated, you hadn't been sent to the Red House yet, but like you, I've all experienced the cruel and inhumane training here. This cold place taught me how to fight and kill. Today I came back to tell you that you are free. Now is the last lesson before freedom. Fight for yourself with me and destroy this damn place. Qin Xiao came up with a strategy of capturing the leader first, while Tony sent the antidote directly in. Natasha and others controlled the monitoring room and read out the declaration of decisive battle directly to the widows. For a moment, the entire sky base was filled with gunfire. Natasha and Yelena led the widows, plus a fat super soldier, and Iron Man Tony Stark, and swept directly from the lower level to the upper level. Chapter 114 The Widow's Sweethearts. When Natasha and the others led the widows into Dreykov's office, Dreykov had already been tied up with his hands and feet broken by Qin Xiao. It was not that Qin Xiao was exaggerating, but that Dreykov was too insidious and cunning. Who knew if he had any device that could cause the base to self-destruct? Natasha, I specially spared his life and gave it to you. Qin Xiao pointed at Dreykov lying on the ground. You gave it to us? Natasha looked at Dreykov and said coldly. Dozens of widows rushed towards Dreykov behind him. Their eyes were full of hatred. Qin Xiao pulled Tony out of the office, letting them vent their anger completely, and also giving Natasha time to comfort these widows. I just looked at the information. Since the establishment of this organization, girls have been continuously selected from all over the world. So far, at least more than 200,000 girls under the age of 12 have been brought into the Red House, and only more than 6,000 have walked out alive. Qin Xiao sat down on the ground and sighed to Tony. 200,000, not counting those who died in accidents on the way here, and many who were killed by Dreykov as defective products before entering the Red House. Even with the last 6,000, there are less than 3,000 people left now, including a few widows of the previous generation like Melina. Tony also became serious and said with a serious face, where are they now? All over the world, there are assassins on standby for a long time, mistresses lurking around politicians and businessmen, successful female entrepreneurs, and even some hold important positions in certain government departments. Take a look for yourself. Qin Xiao handed over a tablet microcomputer, which was Dreykov's operating device for the entire Red House system. This small tablet can not only directly control the Red House, but also directly control the life and death of all widows outside, because on the control interface of each widow, there is a button called scrap. Once this button is pressed, the widow will commit suicide in various ways without hesitation no matter where she is. This son of a bitch, he should be punished with the most cruel punishment in history. What are you going to do with them? Shield? Tony put the platform on the ground and said, "Don't be ridiculous. I can guarantee that S.H.I.E.L.D. will let them continue these dangerous jobs. I mean to recall all the widows outside, remove their nerve drugs, and give them money if they are willing to start a new life. Those who are homeless and voluntarily stay can maintain their current identities. We also need intelligence channels." Tony Dreykov controlled a large number of physical enterprises and natural resources through these widows. This is a huge amount of wealth, which can be used to maintain this base and the activities of those widows who voluntarily stay in the future. I'm not familiar with the company's affairs. You should find a way to find someone to take over remote holdings. The funds will be used for this base and the Illuminati. In fact, this time, whether for the Illuminati or Qin Xiao personally, it was a huge harvest, but Qin Xiao was still a little unhappy, since it was decided to take over this base. Of course it couldn't stay in the current place. Everyone decided to let the sky base directly enter the Arctic Circle, from the north of Greenland to the south, back to the vicinity of New York. Of course, energy is a big problem. Before, there were troops controlled by Dreykov on the ground to transport energy regularly, and now, it depends on Tony Stark's arc reactor. Unexpectedly, his self-supplied renewable energy plan has not been installed on the Stark building under construction, but it has been installed on the sky base first. The speed of the sky base is not fast. It takes at least 7 or 8 days to fly from Eastern Europe across half of the European continent and then from the Arctic Circle. It is just enough for Tony to slowly transform the energy system, and Qin Xiao can also let Yelena and Natasha slowly recall widows from all over the world. After controlling the sky base and killing Dreykov, 2 tasks were completed. 1,000 points and a necklace were awarded. 1,000 points are easy to understand. Qin Xiao upgraded his combat suit as soon as he got it. After all, the function of eliminating kinetic energy is still very good. At least when being bombed in midair, he will not be blown away so far. If it is upgraded to the top level, the one with Captain America's shield can almost eliminate all kinds of kinetic energy and shocks. It is really quite useful. In fact, it is mainly because Qin Xiao's attack power is enough now. The current enemies are still mainly on the Earth, and the thermal weapons he encounters account for the vast majority. After upgrading this, there are only 600 points left. If you want to improve your combat skills, you need 800 points. I can only talk about it next time, and then look at the necklace. Sweetie for widows. I don't know if the system was designed that way from the beginning, or if Qin Xiao's words inspired it. It is really a black rope with a donut accessory. The yellow donut is a crystal similar to yellow sapphire, and the chocolate sauce on it is made of black unknown gemstones, or crystals. Qin Xiao is not sure what this thing is. Although it doesn't look bad, it is obvious that it is a donut. Qin Xiao, a straight man, hesitated. There are also English words engraved on the back of the donut. Black Widow. Wearing this is easy to explain. After all, it is a relationship with Natasha. But, system, tell me what this necklace does? See for yourself. The system popped up an explanation interface for Qin Xiao. Sweetie of the widows. It represents the metal that rescued all the widows in the Red House. After wearing it, you can get the gratitude and loyalty of all the widows. Hiss. Qin Xiao took a breath and put it on quickly. Then he thought about it. System, that's not right. Do you mean that anyone who wears this can get the loyalty of the widows? Qin Xiao must ask this clearly. Otherwise, if he accidentally loses it, Natasha will be kidnapped. Host, have you played too many games? Do you really take this as a game equipment? You can understand that there's a specific pheromone in it, just like the one of Dreykov that cannot attack. It's just that the function of this necklace is to make the rescued widows more grateful to you than other people involved in the incident, thereby increasing their gratitude. That's all. Fuck, why don't you just write it all down? Why do you have to ask me again? Although Qin Xiao cursed, he was still very satisfied with this equipment. You know, Most of these widows have no family or friends, and even no life of their own. Most of them don't even know how to integrate into normal life. Qin Xiao doesn't force them. I believe that most of them are still willing to provide information to Qin Xiao secretly. This is also what Qin Xiao needs, a powerful intelligence network. As Qin Xiao expected, most of the widows didn't know where to go after returning to the sky base and releasing the control. All the training they received in the first half of their lives was about spies and agents. Under the influence of the widows' little sweetness, most of the widows were willing to continue to work as spies. It's just that the object of loyalty has changed from Dreykov to Qin Xiao, and the key is that the degree of danger has been greatly reduced compared to before. They are no longer consumables. After dealing with the affairs of these widows, their leadership was handed over to Natasha. 4 full days have passed, and the location of the sky base has also changed from Eastern Europe to the north of Greenland. Qin, the energy transformation is complete. I need to restart the entire power system. I suggest that we land first, otherwise there may be some danger. Tony was almost vomiting these days, transforming the laboratory, replanning the energy system, connecting the power system, etc. The missing important materials had to be brought back by himself. Finally, it was done. In the future, the sky base will no longer need to run back and forth for energy. Slowly landed in the ice-covered northern Greenland. A few hundred meters away from the sky base, a round shield under the ice layer was looming in the sun. Chapter 115 Welcome to Heaven. There is a bulky energy core here, which is equivalent to an advanced battery. It is at least 10 years ahead of the outside technology, but to me, Tony Stark, it is just a pile of garbage. Tony stood with his butt sticking out, standing near a jet in the sky base. The shell here has been removed by Tony. What is the use of this thing? Backup energy? Qin Xiao stood by and helped. Almost. Not much. It is equivalent to the USB uninterruptible power supply in your home. It is used when the energy is exhausted or the energy line fails, ensuring that you can land safely on the ground, Tony said while twisting the wrench and tightening the screws vigorously. As long as I replace it with mine, it can ensure that when the energy fails, this thing can fly at least hundreds of kilometers and land smoothly. Damn it, these hexagonal screws can't be turned at all. Don't they replace the parts regularly? Tony tried hard for a long time but couldn't turn the screws. He was angry and threw the wrench on the ground. I'll do it. I'll do it. Qin Xiao went to pick up the wrench happily. There was no other way. In terms of technology, especially mechanical technology, Tony is definitely one of the best on Earth. Qin Xiao had been listening to him bragging for a long time, and now he finally had a chance to show his skills. He quickly picked up the wrench. A real man can't just use his brain, Tony. You can't take off your armor and not even fix the screws. Today I'll show you what a real man is. Let's go. Qin Xiao exerted a little force, and the head of the screw was directly twisted off and flew high, hitting the ice surface in the distance and jumping playfully for several times, turning into a bright light in the sun. Ha ha ha. Tony sat on the side and laughed. Come on, Mr. Macho. You'd better pull it down violently. Don't worry about damaging anything. I'll clean it up. Okay. Qin Xiao stretched out his hands to hold the metal box that was about the size of 2 batteries, and pulled it hard. The base and the wiring tube below were directly pulled off violently. Whoosh tilde. A strong beam of flame suddenly erupted from the pulled-open base, and a powerful thrust directly brought Qin Xiao, who was not prepared at all, to a height of more than 10 meters. People cannot use leverage at high altitudes, and Qin Xiao simply cannot control the thing to stop with his bare hands. It swung countless times in the air like an out-of-control faucet, and was taken hundreds of meters away from the base. Qin Xiao just remembered to loosen his hands, and the result was that he fell heavily on the ice. Tony was laughing so hard below the base. Tony, you are a bastard. Did you know this would happen? Qin Xiao shouted at Tony angrily. In fact, men's happiness is sometimes so simple, regardless of the nobility of their profession or the height of their social status. Sometimes it is so naive. Tony Stark is like this, and so is Qin Xiao. Wait, Tony, I'm going to burn an ice hole here and throw you into the Arctic Ocean. Qin Xiao's body was in flames. I suspect that the gods in Asgard have the function of reducing intelligence. You now look like Thor, that stupid big guy. Tony ignored Qin Xiao's threats, muttered to himself, and then shouted at Qin Xiao, "This is Greenland. If you burn another 100 meters, you won't see the water of the Arctic Ocean. Instead, you might find a frozen human from who knows how many years ago. Maybe she's a beauty, with a nice butt or something." "Tony, come here. I don't know if this person is a beauty, but she definitely has a nice butt." "Did you really see a frozen body?" Tony muttered, and ran towards Qin Xiao. A pit several dozen centimeters deep was burned out of a small piece of ice around Qin Xiao. Qin Xiao was standing in it at the moment, with a round shield under his feet. Tony Stark was very familiar with the shield, because it was made by his father. "Oh my God, my father searched for this guy in the Arctic Ocean for half a year and couldn't find him. How could we find him so easily?" Tony said in disbelief. "In Chinese, this guy may have a fate with the two of us," Qin Xiao said, spreading his hands. "Forget it. I'm not interested. My father used this guy as an example to me every day when I was a kid. It seemed that I was a waste compared to him. I have no interest in him. At most, I can dig him out and give him to the New York Museum. Maybe I can get a patriotic pennant or something." The shield was found, and the person should be nearby. Tony went back and put on the armor. Using the scanning function on the armor, he found that 5 meters away from the shield, about 10 meters below the ice. This guy should thank global warming. When Qin Xiao carried a popsicle Captain America out from under the 10-meter deep ice, Tony said beside him, "Do you think the New York City Museum will give us a bonus or something? I remember there is a Captain America museum in New York that is dedicated to the life and deeds of this guy and his team. If we send shields and popsicles there, their ticket prices can be greatly increased." "Tony, have you ever thought that this guy might still be alive? I mean frozen. You know, didn't a rich man spend money to freeze himself?" "I just like your lack of common sense, Qin. First of all, freezing requires a lot of environmental factors. Secondly, after thawing, it is not certain whether the body functions and organs, and even the brain can be restored. I bet you $10 that this guy is already a fossil, but a relatively fresh fossil." 2 hours later, in the medical room of the Sky Base, after a detailed examination and scan of various life indexes and various organs and brains of the body, Tony took out $10 from his pocket and handed it to Qin Xiao. "I have to make it clear that this is an individual case and definitely does not represent the correct scientific basis and data." "Come on, Tony. Sometimes you can't just look at the world from a scientific perspective, you know? I can breathe fire. Someone can fly into the sky with a hammer. What else is impossible in this world?" The Sky Base finally stopped at a height of 100 kilometers away from the New York coastline. It took a total of 2 days from digging out the captain to returning here. Tony's new energy helped the Sky Base speed up. I don't know if it was because it was close to his hometown. After the Captain America completely stopped at the Sky Base, he suddenly opened his eyes. There were not many people in the Sky Base at this time. Qin Xiao was afraid that the captain would suddenly wake up and have a conflict with others. He threw the captain alone on the lower layer of the fan blades. Poor Captain America. There was no one around him when he woke up. When he went out, he saw a futuristic corridor and lights outside. When he ran outside, he was actually in the sky, above the clouds. He stood in the corridor and shouted for a long time, but no one responded. "If I fly over in my armor, will our Captain Rogers think he has arrived in heaven?" Tony said with a smile while watching the surveillance video. The captain searched back and forth for a long time, and finally saw the elevator where the fan blades and metal pillars were connected. In fact, he had seen it a long time ago, but the door and button were too different from what he remembered, and he didn't remember it was an elevator at all. He tried to press the button, but before he could reach out his hand, with a ding, the elevator door opened automatically. A young man with black hair and black eyes looked at him with a smile. "Welcome, Steve Rogers. Welcome to heaven. I am your guide angel, number 1918 dash." In fact, in the movie, Captain America was found in the wreckage of the plane, but Marvel's previous setting was to separate him from the plane, because Banner went to the North Pole and shot himself, and later transformed into the Hulk and broke the iceberg in the North Pole. The satellite took a photo of the Hulk standing on the ice and roaring, and Captain America was buried under the ice layer in the corner next to him. Later, I don't know why this setting was not used. Also, the number of words in each chapter is enough, and the average is more than 2,000 words. This is the number required by the tomato editor. I am above the average. The words after the dividing line do not take up the number of words in the main text, and there is no money to be collected. Don't say that I am bloating the numbers. There is no money. If you think the main text is watery, it's because my writing is not good. There is no way to solve this problem for the time being. I will slowly improve it. I wish you all a happy weekend. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116 Nick Fury Visits. Never underestimate others. Qin Xiao has forgotten where he heard this sentence, but it is quite appropriate now. When he woke up and saw these futuristic things outside, he found himself in the sky as soon as he went out. This antique from more than 60 years ago was not confused by everything in front of him. When Qin Xiao finished saying "Welcome to heaven," Captain America just glanced at him lightly. "Before I injected the super serum, I saw a car that could float directly at the Stark Expo. It was invented by my friend Howard. Although it failed in the end, he told me that science is something that can be thought of, which means it is not far from realization. So where is this place?" Qin Xiao was so calm. "He is really worthy of being Captain America." Nodding with admiration, Qin Xiao said with a smile, "That's right, maybe your friend is right. He is a great scientist. He has thought of many possibilities in the future, but has he talked to you about this?" As the voice fell, Qin Xiao's body burst into flames. "Captain America, in fact, we can't fool Captain America as an ordinary farmer in the 1940s. He fought against Hydra decades ago, and the other side had already developed weapons using the cosmic cube as energy on a large scale. That thing is much more advanced than most of the current firearms." Qin Xiao didn't know how to explain it to Captain America slowly, so he just threw him to Yelena. Anyway, the little girl talked a lot after contact control. With the popular science video about the development of human beings on Earth in the past few decades that he searched on the internet, he should have recovered after watching it. More than an hour later, the captain walked out of the room with a dejected look. "How is it, Captain? Is Yelena's explanation not good?" Qin Xiao stretched his head and asked. "No, she said it very well, and even showed me many interesting things. Mobile phones, the internet, landing on the moon, etc. Captain America's voice was a little low. I have a date." Qin Xiao gave Captain America a suggestion: stay in the sky base for a while, and slowly understand this world decades later. When you understand it almost, go down and take a look, and then decide what you want to do. By the way, let Natasha and others tell him about the outside world, especially about SHIELD, the Red House they destroyed, etc. In fact, it is a private affair. The central idea is that there are too many political factors and personal ambitions of politicians behind organizations like SHIELD. If you want to do something right and make the world a better place, you have to think about Qin Xiao and other unrestrained individual organizations. Of course, this is a matter of opinion, not necessarily good or bad. In this world of superheroes, they are all complementary, but under the subtle influence, Qin Xiao believes that Captain America will definitely stand on his side. Even if he goes to SHIELD, Qin Xiao doesn't care, as long as Hydra is exposed. He believes that Captain America will make the same choice as in the movie. Regarding Hydra, Qin Xiao actually has his own selfish motives. He wants to wait until after the Battle of New York for the appearance of Scarlet Witch. Of course, these are all later things. What Qin Xiao is facing now is Nick Fury. Nick Fury can't remember how many times he has been angry with Qin Xiao and smashed things. To Nick Fury, destroying the Red House and killing Dreykov were nothing, but taking over all the power from Dreykov caused a lot of people to feel uneasy, especially this bastard. He actually swaggered and drove that damn sky base outside New York. What did the politicians in the White House think? This is not the chaotic Eastern Europe. They even said that it was 100 kilometers away from the New York coastline. In legal terms, It was the high seas below and it was not the airspace of any country above. Fuck. Especially when seeing Natasha's resignation letter on the desk, Nick Fury's head hurt even more. Frankly speaking, Nick Fury knew this capable subordinate of his better. She would never make this choice because of her personal feelings. It was more because of the thousands of widows in the Red House who were scattered all over the place. Natasha must have done it to protect them. Ah. Nick Fury sighed helplessly and picked up the phone on the desk. Help me prepare a plane, Agent Hill. I want to see the sky base that Qin Xiao brought back. The Quinjet fighter of S.H.I.E.L.D. slowly landed on the sky base. Welcome, Director Fury. Jarvis connected the communication on the plane at the sky base that had begun to be slowly transformed by Tony. Oh, Jarvis, it's you. It seems that Stark really cares about this base. He even used his own private butler to manage it. In comparison, the Avengers base in New York is simply shabby. Nick Fury sarcastically walked into the base after getting off the plane. To be honest, Qin Xiao and his men went directly to overthrow the Red House and seize the base. This made Nick Fury more certain of the correctness of his Avengers plan. In today's society, large-scale wars are too costly and there are too many design factors. For example, the Red House, this notorious spy organization in the world, has not thought about completely eradicating them, but how to eradicate it. Not to mention that the Red House uses those widows to control a large number of politicians and wealthy people, and has invisible influence in the world's economy and politics. Just talking about combat effectiveness, a large army will obviously cause a lot of unnecessary troubles and is unrealistic, but shooting a small team of elites, it is not enough to kill such an influential organization. And Qin Xiao and his people are powerful and flexible in combat, and they don't have to worry too much when doing things. This is the advantage. But on the other hand, such an uncontrolled organization is indeed very worrying. This is the main purpose of Nick Fury's coming here today. That is to recruit. Standing in a reception room brought to him by a widow, looking at the sky outside through the glass, S.H.I.E.L.D. has recently developed a new type of aircraft carrier that can fly directly into the sky. That thing is good as a temporary base or a temporary mobile force, but as a base, it is more suitable now. Oh, Nick, why do you always have this posture when you are waiting for someone? You remind me of those damn brain-dead idol dramas. Look up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, so that you can't let your tears flow. Right? Chapter 117 Lawnmower and Scythe. I never watch any TV series. I don't have time. I do this so that I can think better, you know? Every day, I think about how to make this planet with billions of people safer. Damn it. Can you give me less trouble in the future, for God's sake? Nick Fury looked back at Qin Xiao and said angrily, relax, my friend. Where did all the trouble come from? Since we met, I have eliminated drug lords and some terrorists, not to mention Obadiah and Ivan Vanko. This time, I completely eliminated the Red House. Qin Xiao spread his hands with a puzzled look on his face. Everything I do makes the world better and safer, and there is no need to consider too many political factors, international disputes, or even your command. You have taken advantage of it, haven't you, Nick? You are changing the concept. Qin, do you know what I mean? I formed the Avengers to stand up when the world needs it, not to fight crime and terrorists at will. Yes, this is more flexible and convenient, but it will cause unrest in the international community and the people. Nick Fury spoke righteously. Standing in his position, he was actually quite uncomfortable. After all, the independence of S.H.I.E.L.D. was only superficial. International community and the people? Do you mean the politicians hiding behind S.H.I.E.L.D. and the World Security Council? Those politicians who only ask to fight against terrorists who will not infringe on their interests? Qin Xiao acted a little disdainful, not to mention that Alexander Pierce, the Hydra, was the chairman of the Security Council. Even if he was not, Qin Xiao would not believe those hypocritical Western politicians. I don't want to argue with you about this anymore. The Red House organization cannot be controlled by one person, including you and Tony. It's too dangerous. There must be someone to supervise it. The power must be supervised by someone, otherwise it may change from protecting people to hurting people. Do you understand? Nick Fury relaxed his tone and began to reason with Qin Xiao seriously. Seeing him like this, Qin Xiao also put away his disdain. sat up straight and said seriously, I absolutely agree with you, Nick. But the people who supervise us should be the people, those who need protection on the road, those who cannot protect themselves when war and killing come, not the World Security Council. Maybe the World Security Council is not very ideal and perfect, but it was established by many countries in the world. We have organizations and procedures, just like a lawnmower. It may not be able to take care of every tiny corner like a sickle, but it is stable and efficient, isn't it? Nick Fury made a vivid analogy. But we still need a sickle, don't we? Nick, you're right, but the world doesn't just need a lawnmower. It also needs a sickle to take care of those corners that the lawnmower can't see or is inconvenient to clean, right? Besides, it seems that the people who operate the lawnmowers don't just leave behind corners, they just want to control all the weapons in their own hands. What do they want to supervise? Everyone in the world? For example, put a gun on the head of everyone in the world? You understand what I mean, right? Nick Fury certainly knew what Qin Xiao was talking about. The Insight Project, a plan proposed by Alexander Pierce and approved by the World Security Council, is still top secret for the time being and is in the intense preparation stage. In fact, even his newly developed mobile base, the Sky Carrier, is just a derivative product of this plan. But even Coulson doesn't have the authority to know about this plan, so what about Qin Xiao? As soon as Qin Xiao said this, Nick Fury looked at Qin Xiao with a look of vigilance. Don't look at me like that, Nick. I didn't plant anyone around you. You know my past, don't you? There's no one in the Red Room either. You can ask Natasha. You know she won't lie to you. I know much more than you think about this world, this universe, the past and the future. Askred and the mysterious Kamartaj? Nick Fury asked calmly. You can understand that, my friend. I assure you that if we are needed without involving political factors, the Avengers plan will still work. Qin Xiao stood up and said seriously, I hope you can remember what you said. Nick Fury knew that persuasion was useless, so he stood up and prepared to leave. Qin, I have one last word for you. You have all the resources and intelligence of the Red Room. This is not only a threat to many people, but also a piece of fat meat. If you leave S.H.I.E.L.D., you need to be prepared to face the covetous eyes and dirty hands of those people. There is another point I must emphasize. The order of this world is based on the current stable political system of each country. Even if there are many shortcomings, it is the basis for guaranteeing the lives of billions of people. People may cheer for the heroes who save them, but what they ultimately believe in is the government that can maintain long-term stability. You and Tony are not Steve Rogers. Unless you have a strong public trust base like him, you'd better consider my advice. After saying that, Nick Fury turned around and was about to go out, but he happened to bump into Captain America, who was about to come in. Qin, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but why is this disposable towel that Yelena gave me so sticky? Nick Fury took 2 steps back as if he had seen a ghost, and sat back on the chair. Oh my god, what did I see? Qin, don't tell me he is Captain Steve Rogers. Damn it, is my only eye hallucinating? Nick Fury sat on the chair, shrunk his neck and spread his hands, with a look of seeing a ghost. Captain America was also surprised. You know me, I am indeed Steve Rogers. Qin, is he your friend? In fact, Qin Xiao didn't want Nick Fury to meet Captain America so early. Recently, Captain America has been cramming in his room every day to make up for what he has lost in the past few decades. Even if he comes out, he only goes to a few fixed areas. Qin Xiao specially arranged this reception room today, far away from Captain America's activity area. Who knew he would come here? I really don't know whether to say it is fate or God's will. Okay, let me introduce you, Captain. This is Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD. You can put down what you have in your hand first. Also, this is not a disposable towel. This thing is called a facial mask. Captain, here is the 3rd chapter. There will be another chapter later. Readers who are used to going to bed early can wait until tomorrow morning to read it together with the 1st chapter tomorrow. Chapter 118. Summons of the Senate. To be fair, although Nick Fury is sometimes a little suspicious and even self-righteous, he is definitely a person without any selfish motives. Seeing that his Avengers plan has basically become Qin Xiao's, although he feels frustrated, He also hopes that this team can really become a sharp sickle, as Qin Xiao said. Now even Captain America has been dug out by him. Nick Fury really doesn't know what to say, so he simply sent Dr. Banner over. Of course, sending Banner may be more because he thinks he will be safer in the sky. And the happiest person about Banner's appearance is Tony. The two genius scientists always collide with some different sparks. For example, recently the two of them are studying to invent a pair of pants that will not be torn no matter how they are deformed. The conversation between Nick Fury and Qin Xiao is a bargain for Qin Xiao, because before the captain came in, he had been standing at the door and listening for a long time. The captain is not like Banner. Basically he has no opinion of his own. For this new era, although he superficially listened to Qin Xiao's advice and the sky base is slowly accepting new things, he actually has his own plans in his heart. The conversation between Qin Xiao and Nick Fury completely dispelled the captain's doubts, and to a large extent, the captain agreed with what Qin Xiao said. New York City, Brooklyn. This was the first time the captain had stepped into the city after waking up. Qin Xiao drove the Acura sports car that he had exchanged for his house, and Tony opened the convertible and walked slowly on the streets of Brooklyn. "How is it, Captain? Do you feel familiar?" "I saw what Brooklyn looks like now on Google Maps before, and it feels very strange. I know my home is over there." The captain pointed to another street. "But my house is no longer there. I still remember that alley. I fought with some gangsters and many times. To be precise, I was the one who got beaten every time, and every time it was Bucky who came to save me." "Bucky?" Qin Xiao turned his head and looked at the captain, opened his mouth, but still held back and didn't say anything. "What's wrong?" The captain was very keen to notice Qin Xiao's hesitation. "Oh, nothing. Just thinking of something." "Where are we going next?" "Let's go to the museum. They said there is a museum about me in New York, which still preserves many old photos and videos. I want to go and see it. At least I can see familiar faces there, even if it's in the video." Captain America stayed in the museum for a long time, especially when watching the videos left by the members of the Howling Commandos. In those videos, there are former members of the Howling Commandos, Bucky, and Peggy Carter's exclusive memoirs. In the captain's memory, these are just things that happened not long ago, but when he woke up, more than 60 years had passed, and the whole world could no longer find any shadow of his memory. This is actually a particularly terrible thing, when you are completely unfamiliar with the whole world and have no sense of belonging. People need to look forward. It's easy to say, but if you really put people in Captain America's situation, few people can face it so positively from the beginning. "You are very strong, Captain, stronger than I thought," Qin Xiao said sincerely after leaving the museum. "I was in poor health when I was young, so I could only choose to make my heart stronger." "Okay, I'll finish this bowl of chicken soup," Qin Xiao said secretly in his heart. "I should learn to be stronger in the future, at least look more mature and stable." Nodding, he was about to get in the car. Suddenly he found a bright white on the windshield of the car. "Oh, shit. Which blind policeman gave me a ticket?" "I parked in a standard parking space." Qin Xiao cursed angrily, and walked forward to find that this was not a ticket, but a subpoena. A subpoena issued by the Senate asked Qin Xiao, Tony, and Natasha to attend a hearing held by the Senate. The content was about the sky base outside New York City and the Red House organization. Just like Nick Fury said, this is not only a threat to some people, but also a piece of fat meat. It seems that he is being remembered by someone. If it were in the past, it would be a big trouble. At least Qin Xiao could not turn his face and go to war with the government. But now, Qin Xiao looked at Captain America beside him and smiled knowingly. When Captain America disappeared, the government and the military praised Captain America to the sky. Until now, Captain America has been regarded as the representative of American spirit and patriotism, regardless of the political significance behind these. The government's deification campaign has been very successful. The whole world wants to think that it was because Captain America defeated Hydra that the war was won and peace was successfully ushered in. Over the years, the various Captain America souvenirs, Tickets and a series of peripherals in the museum alone have brought the government a lot of extra income. The deified Captain America definitely has many positive images in people's hearts. He is simply a saint of the new era. Such a person is enough to guide the public opinion of the whole society. Senate. The last time Tony came to this place was because the government asked him to hand over the iron armor. That time, Tony used his eloquent mouth and some videos of the government's secret experiments to slap the Senate's face in front of reporters. And this time, facing Qin Xiao, Tony and Natasha, the Senate was fully prepared in advance. Mr. Qin, I have a document here that shows that you broke into the border between Ukraine and Belarus not long ago and destroyed a spy organization. The Red House, without the consent of any local department. A congressman first attacked Qin Xiao, and the first thing he said was the issue of illegal intrusion. Just like Nick Fury said, without S.H.I.E.L.D., he really needs to face these troubles, big and small, by himself. Sorry, Congressman, illegal intrusion? I don't agree with you. Natasha Romanoff and I were kidnapped in our apartment in Manhattan, New York. I still have the video outside the apartment. You can clearly see that we were carried into the car while unconscious. Qin Xiao really had this video in his hand, but the date was cleverly modified by Jarvis. These words of argument were just a prelude. Both parties didn't care much about this matter. After Qin Xiao said that, the other party also slipped over this issue. A video was played directly on the TV at the scene. This is a surveillance video, which shows Qin Xiao punching the prison wall and rescuing Alexei. Chapter 119. This is called a threat. I was controlled by the leader of the Red House, Dreykov. He had a neurological drug that could completely control the behavior of others. I was controlled by him at the time. Fortunately, I had injected a vaccine to prevent being controlled by chemical drugs beforehand, and I broke free from control soon. It was produced by Stark Industries, and I was the first voluntary clinical experimenter, Qin Xiao said as he raised a file bag in his hand. There was an analysis report on the drug, as well as the certificates of many medical experts Tony had found. Interestingly, Dreykov's neurological drug was originally a product of the Northern Laboratory in Ohio in 1995. I wonder which congressman here remembers the fire in the Northern Laboratory that year. I have all the data from that laboratory, and even 2 witnesses. I wonder if the government can explain why a laboratory with a government background is developing this internationally banned drug. Tony took out a mobile phone and gestured while speaking. Do you need me to project this information on the TV so that the journalists behind can have a good look? Ahem. Another congressman coughed twice, interrupting Tony. This is not a courtroom. We are not here to convict anyone, nor are we here to discuss the fire in a certain laboratory in 1995. We can study these issues later. The main purpose of today's hearing is about the original Red House organization's sky base, which is now less than 100 kilometers away from New York. It is a militarized sky fortress that will pose a huge threat to our national security. There are also thousands of well-trained agents in the organization. They have been trained in various espionage activities and killing techniques since childhood. These forces should not be in the hands of individuals, but should be monitored by the government. Qin Xiao, Tony Stark, Natasha Romanoff, the 3 of you are now the actual controllers of the Sky Fortress and thousands of threatening spies. We hope that you can hand over the spy information in your hands in the Sky Fortress outside New York City to the U.S. government to ensure the safety of our country and people. I'm sorry, we can't do it, Natasha suddenly said loudly to all the congressmen in the seats. What did you say? The man probably didn't expect Natasha to refuse so directly and positively. He thought he had misheard and confirmed it again. You heard me, Mr. Congressman. I said we can't do it. I know your plan. Thousands of well-trained spies are easily obtained, but I want to tell you that they have been controlled since they were young. Now they have finally gotten rid of the control of that damn potion and can live a normal life. I will not allow any organization, government or individual to control and manipulate those poor girls. In order to achieve their own goals, they are free. Natasha also came out of the Red House. In this matter, she was too lazy to talk about any conditions with anyone, but directly brought up the topic. Following her angry voice, Tony cooperated very well and released some information on how the Red House selected and trained those widows on TV. These materials immediately caused an uproar at the scene, especially those reporters, who immediately ran forward to take pictures and videos. Oh my God, this is simply the most thorough deprivation of human rights. They actually cut off the wombs of those girls. Damn it, this is simply murder. Quiet down. Everyone, be quiet. We can discuss the placement of these former spies in detail later. Please don't forget our theme today, which is how to maintain our national security. The Speaker of the Senate slammed the table fiercely. National security is above all else. If the three of you do not cooperate with our suggestions, then today's hearing will end here. The Senate will propose a special bill on this matter. If the vote is passed by 2/3, we will not rule out the possibility of using force. Threat. Naked threat. Use force. I want to ask, are you sure you want to use force? Qin Xiao stared at the Speaker of the Senate and asked, Mr. Qin, I know you have many extraordinary abilities, but you are not naive enough to think that you can fight the entire state machine by yourself, right? We just want to solve the problem. You should think carefully before we vote. The Speaker smiled, but his eyes told Qin Xiao that he was threatening you. Ha ha ha. A bunch of hypocritical politicians who can only beat around the bush. Qin Xiao laughed. You should have voted first, then threatened us with force and issued an ultimatum. Why bother holding a hearing? There are many congressmen here today. I think it's better to vote now. How about it? I've even prepared the votes for you. Snap. Qin Xiao stretched out his hand and snapped his fingers. A strange scene appeared. A small golden circle appeared silently beside all the congressmen present. In these circles, which were not much bigger than a small ashtray, palms stretched out from them, and a standard quarter-sized white paper fell from the palms and fluttered to the side of each congressman. Then the palms quickly retracted, and then immediately stretched out again. This time, a yellow bullet fell from each palm. The scene was silent, and almost everyone held their breath. The congressmen all tensed up and dared not move. There was only the sound of bullets hitting the table. Everyone was stunned, and they didn't even know when those hands were retracted. When did the small golden circle disappear? Come on, vote. Hurry up and write yes. I'm waiting to be conquered by your force. Qin Xiao stood up and looked around and said loudly. After a while, one of the congressmen suddenly reacted. Oh my God, what did I say? Mom, I want to go home to find my mom. Seeing that this congressman's hair was already gray, he went home to find his mother at his age. It seemed that he was really scared and a little crazy. Qin Xiao patted Tony and Natasha nonchalantly. Let's go. Today's hearing is over. Let's go back. When he arrived at the door, Qin Xiao stopped again and turned around to say, Oh, I forgot to tell you that all of you, including the counselors who didn't come today, have an identical form placed in your bedroom. If you haven't thought of it yet, it's okay. Just fill it out when you get home. I'll be waiting for you. Also, this is what I call a threat. I felt nervous the first time I received a gift. Thanks to Blade for bombarding me with gifts, but seeing 10 urgency talismans in a row was scary. Really, big brother, please hold me tight. Thank you. Chapter 120. Captain America joins and the team is formed. Qin Xiao received a call from Guyi as soon as he went out. How was it? Are you satisfied? Satisfied. So damn satisfied. I really don't know how to express my gratitude. How about I sing a song for you? Qin Xiao remembered the congressman calling his mother just now, and he was in a very good mood, and he talked nonsense with Guyi. Don't talk nonsense. I have no interest in your singing. Give me the money quickly. It's $200 million. Guyi's voice came from the phone fiercely. Qin Xiao never thought that before going to the hearing, he went to Guyi for help, but Guyi's condition turned out to be money. Why does your tone sound like you are asking for a debt? This doesn't sound like what a supreme magician would say. How about a discount? Qin Xiao said with a big face. The supreme sorcerer also needs to eat. You don't know how many people there are in Kamardage. Don't talk nonsense. Transfer the money quickly. You can ask for a discount if you are not afraid of the length of some organs being discounted when you sleep. Along with the voice on the phone, a pair of scissors made of magic energy strangely stretched out in front of Qin Xiao, and cut twice in front of Qin Xiao. I will transfer the money immediately. Immediately. Qin Xiao immediately admitted his defeat. The scissors slowly disappeared, and Guyi simply hung up the phone. Qin Xiao's behavior caused a strong sensation both in the government and in the media. The most uncomfortable were the people in the Senate, voting and using force. They really didn't dare, but they said it at the hearing. Being threatened by Qin Xiao's 2 bullets, they dared not vote normally. This also greatly affected the image of the government. The only way at present is to propose a proposal normally, vote normally, and then directly declare the proposal invalid if the score is 1 or 2 votes different. Although everyone knows what's going on, it's at least a fig leaf, isn't it? When the Senate was in a dilemma, Qin Xiao did something that made them feel relieved instantly. Qin Xiao still understood the principle of leaving a way out for others. After the hearing, Qin Xiao directly pushed Captain America out. He directly announced to the public that the Sky Base would belong to Captain America in the future. Who is Captain America? How could he endanger national security? It's better not to propose it. Another point is that Captain America was rescued from the ice and was still alive. This matter became an absolute front-page headline. No one cared about any proposal. What Sky Fortress? Everyone cared about that their hero was back. That's right, Captain America's appeal was so terrifying. People's enthusiasm was also a problem. In desperation, Captain America accepted an interview with a TV station. Anyway, he couldn't avoid it. He asked all the questions at once, and he would be full of enthusiasm in the future. There is also the military. Captain America is of great significance to the military. With him, conscription will become a little easier. But now there is no large-scale war in the world, and Qin Xiao's theory of lawnmower and sickle deeply attracted the captain. He has no interest in returning to the army now. Even so, the military still awarded Captain America a medal. Captain America also recorded a video of conscription for the military. After doing all this, it can be regarded as a true return to society. With the addition of Captain America, the Avengers can be regarded as truly formed. In terms of intelligence, there are the original widows. Although widows from all over the world no longer engage in intelligence collection and killing for profit. However, the huge base and diversity of identities will still allow intelligence from all aspects to be continuously gathered. Natasha will analyze this intelligence and slowly select some valuable ones, such as where there will be some terrorist activities and so on. There is a source of funds and an intelligence department, and Tony is responsible for equipment support. If a battle is needed, several people will go out together. In fact, when the captain decided to join, it felt that the whole team was truly formed. Qin Xiao finally understood why in the movie, Tony and Captain America were truly the 2 giants of the Avengers. Captain America has absolute cohesion, bringing the team together and setting goals, just like the one who takes the lead in the entrepreneurial team, setting goals and leading everyone to complete them firmly. Tony is more like a logistics butler, helping everyone solve all kinds of messy problems. The reconstruction of the base, the layout of each room, the update and formulation of equipment, everything Tony can design and prepare in advance. The 2 of them, one in charge of the interior and the other in charge of the exterior, are indispensable in a team. So, Qin Xiao is like an investor, an investment team. Everyone is tied to a chariot, usually not showing off. When something really happens, everyone knows that the Sky is the major shareholder. Training room. Since Qin Xiao traveled through time, he has never been so happy to act like this. The appearance of Captain America gave Qin Xiao 500 points. Qin Xiao spent 800 points to exchange for an intermediate weapon mastery. Intermediate weapon mastery, an upgraded version of primary weapon mastery, for most cold weapons to be used more easily, initially touching the threshold of human weapon integration. After exchanging this, Qin Xiao's feeling of holding the Tang Dao was instantly different. The whole person and the weapon fit better. If you have to compare it, it's like every Chinese uses chopsticks. When you hold it in your hand, you can naturally adjust it to the most convenient angle and posture. You don't need to think about it at all, and it's completely different to use. For example, for the same side chop, the angle of each knife will be slightly adjusted. Under the same force, the speed is faster and the power is greater. Compared with the original, it's like the difference between the top masters and the average players who play well in the game. Whether it's the release of skills, connection, or positioning, it's smoother. It's obviously the same steps, but it gives people completely different feelings and effects. But even so, Qin Xiao still didn't break Captain America's shield without using fire. Before upgrading the weapon mastery, Qin Xiao fought with Captain America with the Tang Dao. The result is not much different from now. The reputation of 50-50 is indeed well deserved. A shield allows the captain to play with flowers. No matter how tricky the angle of Qin Xiao's knife comes from, the captain can always defend in time. Especially the shield has the effect of absorbing shock. Qin Xiao's strength is basically useless in front of the shield, no matter how much strength he uses. As long as the shield blocks it, the impact of the Tang sword will be completely absorbed by the shield. It can't cause any power suppression or damage to the captain at all. Chapter 121 Christie's Auction. No more fighting. No more fighting. Qin Xiao waved his hands and threw the Tang swords on the ground. Unless the speed is so fast that you can't react, I can't break through your shield. But it's so exciting. I've never tried to chop so many swords in one breath. In fact, you are much stronger today than last time. I almost couldn't keep up with your changes of moves several times, but you know that you need to change directions when you change your moves, and my shield only needs to be gently swung left and right or up and down. Captain America is right. If you use a shield to defend, you will naturally have a certain advantage, especially if you control your body shape well. The shield can almost block half of your body. How is it, Captain? How was your experience in Africa the past 2 days? Terrorists are very cruel, right? A few days ago, the captain took Alexei to Africa and eliminated an illegal armed force entrenched in eastern Africa that has long captured local young men to mine diamonds. Alexei was too reckless. He didn't follow the battle plan we had agreed on in advance, and almost injured those innocent miners by mistake. Speaking of this, the captain was a little helpless. Alexei pestered the captain to go with him, otherwise the captain actually wanted to drag Qin Xiao to go with him. Ha ha ha. Qin Xiao knew how unreliable Natasha's nominal father was. Don't worry. I gave them some money. He and Melina are going to take Yelena and Antonia to travel around the world. They will go with you. I guess he wants to compete with you in his heart. You know, when he just became a super soldier, he was called the Soviet captain. The captain certainly knew what this meant. He had studied world history after the end of World War II. Are you sure Antonia is fine now? The captain had been at the base for some time and had heard about Antonia's story. The psychiatrist said that she should go out more and see the outside world. Although Alexei is unreliable, I believe he can make up for some of the fatherly love that Antonia lacks. Also, we will arrange people to mine a diamond mine in Africa. After recovering the cost of the equipment, we will only charge some management fees. The rest of the money earned will help them build schools and hospitals locally. The rest will be distributed to each family according to a certain proportion. Don't worry. The captain smiled and nodded. In these aspects, Qin Xiao and Tony were more thoughtful than he thought. The money in this world basically has no meaning to Qin Xiao. It turns out that the resources controlled by the Red House are astronomical figures. Qin Xiao also learned to spend the money slowly and reasonably. For example, there was an auction some time ago, which contained several ancient Chinese antiques and calligraphy and paintings. Qin Xiao took all of them and sent them back through the Chinese embassy here. And this time, Christie's held another auction at the Grand Palais in Paris, France. And this auction has 2 Chinese treasures, the rat head and the rabbit head in the 12 zodiac signs. The 12 animal heads of the zodiac are in a set of 12. They were originally placed in the royal gardens of China as an ornamental timer. The 12 animal heads of the zodiac are arranged in a circle. They are arranged according to the 12 hours. At each hour, there will be a corresponding animal head that will continue to spray water. At noon, there will be a spectacular scene of 12 animal heads spraying water together. Unfortunately, due to some historical reasons, the 12 animal heads have been scattered all over the world and have not been gathered together yet. Qin Xiao must not let this go. In addition to these 2 national treasures, there is also a big finale object, which is said to be from China. Christie's is quite mysterious this time, and even the photos of this auction item have not been leaked. How is it? Still wondering what the last auction item is? It's about to start, and we'll know in a while. Tony has never been very interested in this kind of auction. If he likes something, he always lets Xiao Chili come forward. So this time Natasha accompanied Qin Xiao. I don't know, I always feel weird today. I feel uneasy. I don't know if it's my period. Qin Xiao muttered with his head down. Natasha smiled and pinched Qin Xiao. Then go back and tell me what it feels like. I haven't been here yet. The auction officially began as the two chatted. Qin Xiao was not very interested in some celebrity paintings and antiques. He kept pulling Natasha to chat quietly, until the bronze heads of the 12 zodiac animals were brought up. The first item to be auctioned was the rat head. The following auction item originated from the mysterious China. It was designed by the Italian painter Lang Shining more than 200 years ago, supervised by the French, and made by the royal craftsmen of China. Although everyone knew the origin of the 12 zodiac animal heads, the auctioneer still gave a detailed introduction on the stage. This item starts at 3 million euros, and each bid must not be less than 200,000 euros. Start now, the auctioneer said as he dropped the hammer and announced the start of the auction of the rat head. 3 million. Number 121 bids 3 million first. When the auction started, Qin Xiao did not rush to bid, but waited for the price to slowly rise to leave a few real competitors. Soon, the price of the rat head was raised to a high price of 8 million euros. At this time, the number of participants gradually decreased, and Qin Xiao raised his placard. 10 million. He raised the price by 2 million at once. Qin Xiao gave people the feeling that he was determined to win. The auctioneer below also exclaimed, 10 million. Number 66 bid 10 million, and raised the price by 2 million in one breath. It seems that Mr. Qin is determined to win this item. Recently, Mr. Qin has frequently bid at major auctions and recovered many cultural relics that were lost abroad in China. I personally admire Mr. Qin's national sentiment, but the auction has to continue. Is there anyone who can bid higher than Mr. Qin? The auctioneer said a lot of nonsense, just to stir up some anger, slow down the hammer, and try to raise the price. In response, Qin Xiao just frowned slightly and said nothing. I bid 11 million euros. Sure enough, after the auctioneer talked a lot of nonsense, a bidder with number 146 raised his placard. Qin Xiao glanced at the bidder. He had black hair and dark skin like himself. Could he be Chinese? He is Japanese. Named Hashiguchi Kohai, the eldest son of Hashiguchi Shunsuke, the major shareholder of Hashiguchi Heavy Industries in Japan. His family has a very deep background in the Japanese military and underworld, which is equivalent to the status of Stark Industries in the United States. Natasha knew what Qin Xiao was thinking and quickly explained in his ear. Chapter 122, Killing in Public. If it was a Chinese, Qin Xiao wanted to go up and say hello, and the two sides would discuss it. As long as the cultural relics were brought back, it didn't matter who took the photo. But the Japanese, 15 million. Qin Xiao lazily raised the sign. At this time, Hashiguchi Kangping also looked at Qin Xiao, with a hint of provocation in his eyes. 18 million. Hashiguchi Kangping also raised the sign again. Is this kid sick? Just bid. What does that look mean? Doesn't he know me? Qin Xiao said to Natasha in surprise. Qin Xiao's behavior in the U.S. Senate some time ago, coupled with the organization that smashed the Red House in one fell swoop, and Captain America's behavior of smashing terrorists under the banner of the Avengers several times, many people around the world have noticed the name Qin Xiao, although it is not as well known as the Avengers after the New York War in the movie. The strange incident in the Senate was also forcibly suppressed by the government. But there is no wall that is impenetrable. Ordinary people don't know, but some top dignitaries still know. Qin Xiao, who threatened all members of the U.S. Senate by himself, is now recognized by the world as one of the most untouchable people. So Qin Xiao was also wondering, is this Hisoka Kohai crazy? 25 million. Qin Xiao raised his card again. 30 million. Hisoka Kohai bid again, but this time he was already excited. Qin Xiao smiled slightly. 40 million. The auctioneer was so happy that he went crazy. 40 million. 40 million euros. Mr. Qin bid 40 million euros. God, this is really a crazy price. Is there anyone who wants to bid more? 40 million for the first time. 40 million for the second time. 40 million for the third time. Let us congratulate Mr. Qin. This auction has created the highest price in the series of the 12 zodiac animal heads. Amid the auctioneer's excited shouts, the auction hammer fell heavily, and from Hisoka Kohai's side, there was an extremely angry Baga. Dear, It seems that you have pissed off the spoiled child at home, Natasha said with a smile. Qin Xiao looked at Ling Ku Kangping meaningfully, and suddenly raised his number plate. Now Mr. Qin, the next lot hasn't come out yet. What are you doing? Do you have anything to say? Okay, no problem, everyone. Mr. Qin seems to have something to say. The auction will be suspended for a moment. We welcome Mr. Qin. The auctioneer took the lead in applauding. What are you going to do? Natasha looked at Qin Xiao and asked. I won. I'll go and read out my acceptance speech. Dear. Qin Xiao smiled slightly, stood up and went straight to the stage. Many people know that I am Chinese, and the 12 zodiac animal heads are our Chinese national treasures. I am very grateful to everyone at the auction for showing mercy and not competing with me. Qin Xiao praised everyone present very much. In fact, not to mention that those who knew Qin Xiao stopped bidding when they saw him bid. His price, without considering the nationality factor, has far exceeded the normal price, and these people present are not fools. As a Chinese, I naturally hope that every national treasure can return to China. Today we have another rabbit head and a mysterious item, which are said to be from China. I hope you will continue to show mercy and let our historical relics return to their homeland for my sake. Thank you. Qin Xiao bowed slightly, and the people present also gave him face. Many people gave Qin Xiao warm applause. Logically speaking, this is about the end of the story, but Qin Xiao waited for the applause to end and showed a weird smile. Then he pointed directly in the direction of Hashiguchi Kangping and said, of course, what I just said does not include bidder number 146, oh, that is Mr. Hashiguchi Kangping who has been bidding with me just now. It seems that Mr. Hashiguchi is also very interested in our Chinese culture. I can understand that you Japanese have admired our Chinese culture since the Asuka period, corresponding to the Tang dynasty, just like a son worships his father. In this case, I am very curious. Why did Mr. Hashiguchi suddenly give up the rat head just now? Is it because your father's pocket money is not enough for you? Oh, what a poor child. There is another rabbit head below. I have delayed it for you for so long. You should call your father for help quickly. I am waiting for you. Click. As soon as Qin Xiao finished speaking, Kangping Hashiguchi broke his number plate alive. In front of so many people, Kangping Hashiguchi could not really take out his mobile phone to call his father. Approaching the next rabbit head, Kangping Hashiguchi did not bid again, and was taken away by Qin Xiao directly at a price of 8 million euros. But after the auction of the rabbit head, Hashiguchi Kangping actually stood up and came straight to Qin Xiao. Boy, no one dares to talk to me like that. You are dead. Do you know that? You are dead. Hashiguchi Kangping lowered his body and stared at Qin Xiao, his eyes full of madness. Qin Xiao slowly turned his head and looked at Natasha. Is this child losing his mind? Qin Xiao was even more puzzled. Is the prince of Hashiguchi heavy industry like this? In fact, Qin Xiao didn't know that Hashiguchi Kangping's life was a tragedy. He was the illegitimate son of Hashiguchi Shunsuk, and his mother died early. Hashiguchi Kangping had a son before, but he lost his son in old age. Later, by chance, he found Hashiguchi Kangping. Unfortunately, Hashiguchi Kangping at that time had been wandering in society for many years, basically without any serious work, taking drugs, fighting, gambling, and all kinds of bad habits. He was a gangster at the bottom. Suddenly, he had such a father, and Hashiguchi Shunsuk was compensating for his behavior. It is easy to imagine how bad Hashiguchi Kangping's character was. Qin Xiao laughed in anger and said to Hashiguchi Kangping with a smile, "You threaten me? I suggest you call your father first to ask. If your father knows that you threaten me, he will definitely spank you hard when he gets home, kid." Qin Xiao reached out and gently slapped Hashiguchi Kangping's face twice. His tone suddenly changed. "Get out of my sight right now. I will treat what you said just now as a fart. Otherwise." Qin Xiao did not say otherwise, but just looked at Hashiguchi Kangping with a look of looking at a dead person. Unexpectedly, this Hashiguchi Kangping was still excited. Not only did he not leave, but he grabbed Qin Xiao's collar and said, "You dare to threaten me, damn Chinese." Bang! As soon as the three words Chinese came out, Qin Xiao's eyes suddenly changed. The next moment, Hashiguchi Kangping flew backwards, directly from the second to last row of the venue to the front stage. Fortunately, The venue was built in the style of a theater, with the back higher than the front, otherwise who knows how many people would have been hit. The auctioneer was concentrating on talking about the next auction item when suddenly there was a whoosh, a figure flew past him and hit the wall behind him. Then the whole person slid down the several-meter-high wall as if he had no bones. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123, Impossible Items. Someone died, so the auction definitely couldn't continue. The scene was in chaos, but Qin Xiao didn't hesitate to go to the backstage of the auction. In front of many Christie's staff, he directly transferred the money to them and took away the animal head. As for the remaining mysterious lot, it can only wait until the next time Christie's reopens the auction. After finishing his business, Qin Xiao had to leave quickly. After all, he was not afraid of trouble when killing people, but it was better not to have a conflict with the police in person. It was better to keep a low profile on these things. But just when Qin Xiao turned around and pulled Natasha to leave, something on the ground entered Qin Xiao's sight. In an instant, Qin Xiao's pupils dilated instantly, and obviously old golden coffin was lying quietly on the ground. When he came in just now, there was a card with other things next to it, and Qin Xiao didn't notice it. But when he transferred the money just now, the staff had already pushed the card away. It was a simple coffin without too many patterns on it, but the lid of the coffin had a protruding piece at each of the four corners, which felt like the two sides of the eaves of an ancient Chinese house. Qin Xiao remembered that when he ordered the coffin, he proposed this idea. After all, they were getting married, so it would be more playful. A momentary bad taste. Impossible. Qin Xiao walked towards the coffin step by step, muttering to himself, "Mr. Qin, are you also interested in this? It took us a long time to get this item. It is very old. Unfortunately, some of the symbols on the front have been blurred for more than half, and only a very small part of it is left. I don't know what it is engraved on, otherwise it would have more archaeological value." Qin Xiao looked at the place he said, and sure enough, he found a horizontal stroke on the front of the coffin, followed by a left stroke and a right stroke, and only a small trace that was a little slanted could be seen at the back. The rest of the parts had been worn away and basically nothing was left. These are not symbols, but part of the Chinese language, not a typo. Qin Xiao stared at the remaining characters on the golden coffin with great concentration. There was already a storm in his heart. "Qin, should we go?" "What happened?" Natasha asked with concern. He didn't show much emotion even when he killed someone in public. "What happened now?" Qin Xiao ignored Natasha's words and stood up to ask the Christie's staff, "Is this coffin consigned by someone else or is it your own thing?" "This is from our company, Mr. Qin." "Mr. Qin, is there any problem?" The staff was a little scared by Qin Xiao. "You know, Qin Xiao just killed someone in front of him. How did this thing come from? Tell me." I don't know, Mr. Qin. I have to call the head office to ask." "Then call now." But it's late at night over there, no one is working." "Where is the auctioneer?" Qin Xiao turned around and found the auctioneer who was still at the scene. "You are going to auction this item today, don't you know where it came from?" "We only know that it belongs to the owner of an ancient castle, and he sold it to our auction house. As for where it came from, he said that his family has collected it since his grandfather's time. How it came from, he can't explain it clearly. That's what the company told me." "Mr. Qin, if you want to know more, you can only wait for your colleagues over there to go to work." The auctioneer was quite calm. He made the words clear and didn't forget to add a sentence. "But Mr. Qin, generally our company will not hide the origin from the auctioneer. You know, cultural relics, if there is no story, they would like to make up a story. So if nothing unexpected happens, even if you consult the company, I believe you will hope." Qin Xiao took a deep breath and exhaled. Things were too weird. He had to adjust his mentality. After a short silence, Qin Xiao directly dialed Guyi's phone. A minute later, a portal opened at the scene, and Qin Xiao directly carried the coffin and Natasha walked into the portal. Before leaving, Qin Xiao turned around and said to the auctioneer, "I must take this thing away. Let your company make an offer and contact me later." New York Temple. Natasha felt a little unbelievable that she had returned to New York directly from France through the portal for the first time, but seeing Qin Xiao's expression now, she knew that he must have something on his mind. She consciously toured the temple by herself, leaving enough space for Qin Xiao and Guyi. "What happened? Why are you carrying a coffin here?" Qin Xiao was anxious just now, and Guyi didn't ask anything. "Can you tell the origin of this thing? Where did it come from? When did it appear? And why did it appear here?" "Guyi Supreme, I know that you can use the Infinity Stones to observe the future and even the past. Although I don't know what the price is, if it is within the acceptable range, please tell me. This matter is very important." Qin Xiao emphasized the last few words. Guyi looked at Qin Xiao in surprise and didn't say anything. Instead, he walked around the coffin, then stretched out a hand and gently placed it on the coffin. The eye of Agamotto on his chest emitted a faint green light. The whole person began to flicker in this space for no reason. After a while, Guyi groaned and exited that state directly. "How is it?" Qin Xiao stepped forward to support Guyi and asked quickly. Guyi's face was full of strangeness, and he waved his hand to Qin Xiao to indicate that he was fine. Then, regardless of Qin Xiao's anxiety to know the answer, he held the coffin again, and the green light on his chest lit up again. At about the same time as before, Guyi still groaned and exited directly from the previous state. "Impossible. This is impossible." The expression on Guyi's face was even more unbelievable than when Qin Xiao saw the golden coffin. At this moment, he didn't care about Qin Xiao at all, and sat cross-legged on the ground, holding the eye of Agamotto with both hands up and down to make a seal. He directly entered the state of browsing time again. This time it lasted for a very long time. Natasha came over twice in the middle, and walked away again when she saw this situation. Just when Qin Xiao was about to kick Guyi to see if he could kick him out of this state, Guyi screamed and spit out a large mouthful of blood, then slowly opened his eyes. "What did you see?" Qin Xiao asked anxiously as he went over to help Guyi sit down. "Our timeline has been disconnected." Chapter 124 The Origin of the Sacred Timeline. Guyi was vomiting blood and was emotional, but Qin Xiao calmed down. He slowly helped Guyi sit down. "What does it mean that the timeline is disconnected?" "It means literally," Guyi adjusted and said to each other, perhaps afraid that Qin Xiao didn't understand it thoroughly enough. Guyi stretched out his hand and drew a line in the void. An orange-yellow light appeared in the air, extending to an unknown place, as if there was no end. "This is the timeline of our world. All the characters, things, and everything are running on this timeline." "I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but suddenly this appeared in front of me, so Natasha suddenly appeared and pointed at the timeline simulated by Guyi and said, "It doesn't matter, come here, there's actually nothing to hide." Qin Xiao waved at Natasha, then he motioned Guyi to continue. "This line should have no boundaries, past and future." But now, Guyi waved at the long line. He directly cut off the middle one. "This is our current state, for example. This is our current position." Guyi casually marked a point. "I traced the past of this coffin, and it was completely cut off about 5,000 years ago. A blank. Time disappeared at that place." "Wait a minute." Qin Xiao waved his hand. "You said 5,000 years ago. Is that when this coffin appeared? How did it appear?" Guyi looked at Qin Xiao deeply. "We'll talk about this question later. Let's talk about this timeline first. It's been more than 5,000 years in the past, and it will end in the future 1,000. What does it mean to end? Shouldn't time be eternally moving forward? What does it mean to stop? The destruction of the universe?" Natasha looked at this timeline curiously and said, "The universe is conserved. It may change its form, but it will never stop. So there is only one answer. Someone manipulated the timeline and made it a closed loop." Guyi erased that section of the timeline again and drew a circle. On both sides of the circle, a small section of black replaced the original orange-yellow. Time has its own unique and indestructible laws. It is impossible to connect a timeline end to end, so it should be the combination of two timelines end to end to form such a circle. These two places are the past and future that I saw, and they are also the places where the two timelines meet. Ancient One pointed to the two small black sections and said, "I don't know what method he used to convert, but it is obvious that I can't break through these two areas. Who is he? Do you know who did all this?" Qin Xiao keenly grasped the hymn in Ancient One's words. "Yes, I know. He is the time traveler, conqueror Kang." Ancient One's words set off an uproar in Qin Xiao's heart. Long before he traveled through time, after watching the trailer of Loki, some people on the internet analyzed that the behind-the-scenes boss of the Time Mutation Administration might be Conqueror Kang. Now it seems to be true. It seems that we should have a good chat about this timeline and Conqueror Kang, Qin Xiao said faintly. Conqueror Kang, Ancient One said with a slight sigh. He comes from the future 1,000 years from now. He is the most outstanding scientist of that era and the first time traveler on the entire timeline. He broke the rules of the timeline. His time travel directly opened up the multiverse, Ancient One said as he threw out another orange-red simulated timeline. The original timeline has always existed like this, but Kang's time travel. Ancient One grabbed a handful of the front of the timeline and placed a small light dot at the back. Then, the timeline began to fork. This Conqueror Kang is obsessed with traveling through time. He has almost reached every time node in years. His appearance and his advanced technology have brought a lot of changes to every time point. Ancient One waved his hand, and dense branches began to appear on the timeline. The emergence of these branches brought more and more crazy conquerors Kang. They all wanted to change the future or the past according to their own wishes. So the war finally broke out between multiple multiverses. Countless multiverses were destroyed, and finally, one of them, Kang, won. He unified the timelines that had not been destroyed and established the Time Variance Administration to supervise and control the development of each timeline to avoid the emergence of new time branches and the outbreak of new wars. Guyi waved his hand, and countless orange rays appeared, approaching each other to form a new, thick timeline. This timeline that includes many time branches that have accepted control is the so-called sacred timeline. Qin Xiao looked at the so-called sacred timeline in confusion. He was also very surprised why his appearance did not usher in the interference of the Time Variance Administration. Natasha didn't know this, but was shocked by Guyi's story and asked a question that Qin Xiao also wanted to know the answer to. "Why do you know this?" Alas, Guyi sighed again, with a hint of memory in his eyes. Because the person who helped him unify and establish the sacred timeline was the first supreme sorcerer, Agamotto. Each of our supreme sorcerers has sworn to guard the Eye of Agamotto in the order of time. It is for this reason that we are also guarding the sacred timeline from the side. But Kang the Conqueror deceived us, or rather, he deceived the first supreme sorcerer Agamotto. Ancient One, with a hint of anger, said something unknown. Agamotto, the first supreme sorcerer, is also the first person in the legend to control the Time Stone. He is a demigod who lived 1,000,000 years before history. He studied magic, created camouflage, and protected the Earth from creatures from other dimensions. After the war in the multiverse broke out, one of the conquerors, Kang, came to 1,000,000 years before history and found Agamotto. He expressed great regret for his time travel, which caused the war between the multiverses. He hoped to end the war, and establish an organization to prevent more timelines from appearing and avoid bigger wars in the future. I don't know what Kang the Conqueror said, but he convinced Agamotto anyway. With the help of Agamotto, Kang persuaded almost all the Agamottos in the timeline. In the end, for the peace of the multiverse and the stability of the timeline, Agamotto sacrificed himself, overdrawn his own power, and used the Eye of Agamotto to help Kang the Conqueror control and regulate all timelines, creating the sacred timeline. This chapter came a little late. I checked the information for a long time and resorted out Loki's plot and the setting of the sacred timeline, striving to avoid some bugs in the future that will make readers lose interest. Chapter 125. The future has changed. I don't know if it's because Agamotto is too trusting, or because Kang the Conqueror took him to see the tragedy of the multiverse war. Anyway, in the end, Agamotto chose to sacrifice himself and help Kang the Conqueror establish the sacred timeline, and asked the next guardian of the Eye of Agamotto to guarantee that he would never disrupt the existence of the timeline. Because the war in the multiverse was too tragic, the Supreme Sorcerer was not a fool. he gradually discovered that Kang the Conqueror was not for peace at all, but to ensure his own rule. Every branch of the sacred timeline is to ultimately avoid the emergence of a new Kang the Conqueror. In other words, everything on every timeline is now destined to develop in only one direction, maybe in different timelines. Iron Man is male and female, Captain America is tall and short, but everything they do must follow the established script. If there is a change in the middle, what awaits them is complete erasure, erasing the characters that cause the branch, and erasing the entire timeline branch. Now the logic of everything is clear. Why is the closed loop of the timeline stopped before Kang the Conqueror, 1,000 years later? The timeline of the past few thousand years may be a specific length required by some rules of the closed loop of the sacred timeline, or maybe there were resistances that threatened him before. Anyway, Kang the Conqueror created a closed loop, so that these thousands of years have been circulating in the timeline. This conclusion is really terrifying, especially for Natasha and Ancient One. Have I been circulating in this timeline for thousands of times? Tens of thousands of times? Repeating my current life all the time? No? Ancient One suddenly said, I don't know how many times this timeline has been cycled, and I don't have any memory of how many times it has been before. But this time should be different, because I see that at some point in the future, the timeline will undergo a huge change, and it will eventually be the next Supreme Sorcerer, Stephen Strange, who will end it all. Stephen Strange? Isn't it the doctor who helped me with the operation? Didn't you say that you would give the next Supreme Sorcerer to Qin? Natasha asked curiously. That's right, what I said just now was before Qin Xiao appeared, and everything changed after he appeared. I was very curious last time, why the Time Variance Administration didn't find you, since you let your girlfriend stay here. I guess you have nothing to hide. You don't belong to this timeline, Qin Xiao. Now, we need to have a good talk. About you? I think we can start with this coffin. After Guyi finished speaking, Qin Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. The system and the time travel were his biggest secrets, and he didn't want to tell anyone. He couldn't tell them that they were actually a movie made in a certain world. Although the laws of the world may not be like this, there may be more and higher level explanations, but it's too troublesome. But now it seems that the time he wanted to travel through at the beginning was the Marvel movie time, but he might have traveled to the wrong side and reached the other end of the sacred timeline. Fortunately, there is a system, otherwise he might be trapped in the other half of the circle, and I don't know how many cycles he has gone through. Although you may not know it at all, it feels very uncomfortable to be manipulated by others. Since I was a child, I have been dreaming that I live in another world. Qin Xiao started to lie. He used the dream to tell the story of the first half of the life of the dead ghost Qin Xiao and the origin of the coffin. Of course, he omitted the system and the time travel, and used the spring and autumn style to describe that he succeeded in his struggle and revenged the couple. What about some things in this world? I know that you know some things that haven't happened yet, Guyi asked. I saw them all in my dreams. Some fragments? It's hard to put them together. Qin Xiao sighed and said with regret. Guyi smiled. She knew that Qin Xiao didn't tell the whole truth, but in her opinion, this was enough. The soul is the most wonderful thing in the world. You may have passed through the closed loop with your soul, or received some information from that timeline in some form. In the process of receiving, you saw some judgments of the future or the past. So that's it. If I hadn't met so many of you, I would have thought I had delusions. Qin Xiao gave Guyi a thumbs up in his heart. Well, he explained it clearly for himself. Great job. Then what about this coffin? I can explain it with the soul, but what about this coffin? Why did it come to this timeline? Qin Xiao asked. I don't know. Guyi shook his head. I saw the end of history. This coffin was dug out of the soil and was regarded as a gift from the gods by the people of ancient European civilization. It was passed down from generation to generation and then fell into the hands of a declining noble, the owner of the castle that sold it to the auction. But I guess that during the timeline conversion process, there should be someone or something else who is responsible for deleting some things. Whether it is a person or an object, it is impossible to disappear out of thin air. There will always be some way to completely destroy it. This should be the missing thing. Qin Xiao nodded without comment. Gui's explanation of the closed-loop timeline should be reasonable, but regarding this coffin, Qin Xiao decided to take time to go back and take a look. Qin Xiao couldn't give Gui any explanation about the issue of the space-time mutation administration, because he himself didn't know anything. According to Ancient One, either the time variance administration has undergone some changes, or Qin Xiao is hiding some special factors that he himself does not know yet. I have one last question. Since you have seen the future and selected the successor, why did you choose me to be the next Supreme Sorcerer when you saw me? This is the biggest question Qin Xiao has for Ancient One. Remember what I said just now? Only the next Supreme Sorcerer can end all this. This is the future I saw a long time ago. Stephen Strange is the best among all our Supreme Sorcerers. When the sacred timeline changed, it was he who led the end of it all. Unfortunately, I was dead at that time. Since I got the Eye of Agamotto, I have seen my future countless times, and it is the same result. But after you appeared, everything changed. There are countless possibilities in the future, and in most of the possibilities, I am alive. In fact, the main line at the beginning is not that complicated. I changed it a little, but the overall situation remains unchanged. I have to modify the outline a little today. Today is the 3rd update. Tomorrow will continue to be the 4th update. By the way, the plot of the New York War is about to begin. Now that the team has been formed, the whole world has to owe the Avengers a favor first, right? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.